to another board meeting. As you know, we have these weekly during the legislative session, but with circumstances the way they are, we are meeting a little bit earlier. We appreciate the time that you've been able to carve out of your busy schedules to be here with us this morning. And I just want to make sure that in case of emergency, we use the 2 west boardroom doors to enter the hallway, then use the north or south doors to exit the building. Let's do a roll call to establish who is here with us this morning. We'll begin with Member Bogus.
Yes, sir.
Is here. Member Bollinger.
Here.
Is here. Member Booth. Here. Is here. Member Brenton is in the building. Member Davis.
Here.
Is here. Member Earl.
Here.
Is here. Member Green. And she is not with us. We'll keep an eye out. Member Hall. Here. Is here. Member Kelly.
Here.
Here. Member Carey.
Here.
Is here. Member Lear.
Yeah.
Is here. Member Longacre.
Here.
Is here. Member Reel. Is here. And member, I'm here, of course, Member Wood and Member Green.
Yes.
Oh, Member Wood is here. Wonderful. And Member Brinton is here. Thank you. So right now we're just missing one and Member Green. So let's go ahead and begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. We've asked Member Lear to lead us in that. Thank you, Member Lear. Let's move right into our agenda item number 2. This is budget priorities. The action first off we have Deputy Superintendent of Operations Scott Jones with us and Assistant Superintendent of Operations Deborah Jacobson. Thank you for being here. And we also have the action before us is the continuation of Utah State Board of Education 5% reduction process. As we do this, we recognize that we spent hours on this last week and got to 30 million. Our task, we still need to find about 130 million to complete the task that is at hand. I just want to say to the public, and I don't know if this will matter, but these reductions that we're looking over, it's going to sound contradictory. This is not because we don't have value in programs. We value all these programs. This is an assignment that we've been given. We're looking at it. And for me personally, what I've had to look at is what is crucial versus what is not as crucial. And so this has been weighing on each of us for the past week, and it's been weighing on you as public and as organizations. We recognize that. And I just want to reiterate that all of us are in this together. All the way from the general public up through and to the legislators, and we are doing what we can to better answer the call or do the work that has been assigned to us as state board members. I would also ask the media, if they're listening, if not, that's fine, but we made some recommendations, simply recommendations last week. And it was shared on TV and in news stories, and the information was inaccurate. And I can answer for my own words, and I can answer for the will of the board, but I do not want to answer for misinformation posted through the media. So if you have questions, media, please ask the appropriate people so that we do not need fear and anxiety spread out. And so we recognize that this is a delicate thing that's happening. And the last thing we want to do is create panic. And we ask that we are partners in this. So Apologies for that personal privilege. Let's go ahead and get started with the task at hand. Scott, do you have anything to add before we, I've got one light on so far, but I want to, because usually you guys tee something up, but what are your thoughts here?
Deputy Superintendent of Operations Scott Jones, Utah State Board of Education, Chair, Vice Chairs, board members, and the public, thank you. We're ready. We thought we would just start with where we left off with the last board meeting, just real quickly review where you left off as a board, and then also then bring up the legislative fiscal analyst recommendations just for review. They're in the backups as well, so that we can correlate, or at your direction, Chair, through the board members, proceed or continue with what you were doing and did at the January 15th meeting. That's it, sir.
Thank you. I've got a light from Member Bogus.
Thank you. I just have a couple questions. So yesterday, through the chair, obviously, we discussed number 15 on the legislative fiscal analyst recommendations.
Yeah, we'll pull that up then now so that the public and the audience can see it, if that's okay, Chair. So, do you have it up yet? No, that's okay. Yeah, that's ours, yeah. So.
For the public's awareness, we're just waiting to get that on the screen.
Just the spreadsheet. Right. We're just wanting to make sure that when you call out a line or an item on the sheet is publicly displayed so that the
I think
public
that's a
can
great
see.
idea,
Yeah,
sir.
so just
I do appreciate that.
sorry to say. So we're up now. So Chair, at your direction, Board Member Bogus will repeat the item number she was going towards.
Please, yeah, Board Member Bogus, back to you.
So on the legislative fiscal analyst sheet, I move that the board adopt number 15 and request the repeal of all relevant codes to accompany that.
There's a motion to adopt line item 15 on the Office of the Legislative Fiscal Analyst sheet and repeal all codes associated with that funding source. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Is there a second? We have a second. Back to you, Member Bogus.
Thank you. I was really thankful for the opportunity. Our team did a really good job answering questions. I just so happened to be in a space where I got them all to myself. And I think that this is a recommendation. I noticed that it fell on many of the sheets that have been presented to us. I think this is a good recommendation. I can get into the weeds if people have questions, but I think this is a good thing. I just want to make certain that all relevant codes, PCBL, CBL, CBE, all of those things need to be repealed so that we don't leave our LEAs with unfunded mandates. And that's all I have to say about that, unless you have questions that get us more into the nitty gritty. Thank you.
Member Earl, I see your light. Is this for this motion or are you in a queue? Okay. Okay.
And Chair, if I may, just for
Please.
process, as these motions are made, we will update your spreadsheet, but not finalize it unless the board did, just for tracking purposes and make sure that we're following the board's guidance or board members' guidance. But then when it's adopted, that'll update the target amount, obviously reducing it by, because we're tracking that board member Bogus is recommending the 100% of that. So that would go towards the target in addition to what you've already ratified.
Yeah,
so
that's helpful.
Okay.
I've got member Kelly and then back to you. Is it a clarity?
Just put me in the queue. I was all
Okay, so I'm going to put member Earl. I've got you written down. You can turn your light off, and then member Kelly after member Earl. You can turn your light off. Back to you, member Bogus.
So my question would just be, do we need to direct our staff, or are we suggesting this to the legislature? I just want to make certain that the motion encompasses what we're asking our staff to do, as well as what we're asking our legislature to do. If you have no problem with this, Chair, I have no problem with it.
I believe you are asking me to present this to as a board recommendation.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't think you need to direct staff. Scott, go ahead.
So the plan is, through you, Chair, to Board Member Bogus and the rest of the board, is that subject to what is done here today would be what is presented to the Public Education Appropriations Committee on Friday, tomorrow, by leadership. So does that help answer the question? Or
It does, and I appreciate that. I just wanted to make certain that when we're making motions throughout the day, we're doing what's right by our staff and by board leadership. Thank you.
Right. That's, if I may, Chair, that's why, just to talk to the process, we'll update the sheet, but it's not final until you ratify or, pass the motion, similar to the process we took at your January 15th board meeting. So, okay.
Thank you. So
Yes, sir.
For my understanding, I just want to make sure I'm clear. We're going to vote on a bunch of motions, and at the very end, we're going to vote on an overall all-encompassing.
That is
sheet.
what I would recommend, so that we as staff can ensure that we are preparing you as leadership to present what the board ratifies today. So with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Member Booth.
So I'm just wondering if in the most recent school year, if we have any information on the extent of use by LEAs or charters, and if eliminating the full program is going to leave them with staff members and others that they're going to have to just let go. Do we have any information? This is not one of the areas that I have discussed with my two superintendents. So I'm just interested in any factual information in terms of how it's been used and what this might do to a local agency when they're faced with eliminating the full program.
Thank you, Member Booth. And I will front load that response, not with an answer, but everything we do, we can ask the same question, right?
Should we not?
Well, no,
ask
I'm
that
not saying
question?
we should not. I think that many people have been asking those questions, and I'm just telling you, we are going to affect some things today, right? And so I'm not encouraging you not to ask that question, but that question is relevant to all of these, right? And that's why we're hoping to get as much information as possible. So I've got two people. I had Member Earl light up fairly quickly, and then I've got Scott. And Jenny, were you hoping to do the same? Respond to that? Or okay, let's go to Scott then, and we'll.
So to answer Board Member Booth's question, a portion of this money does stay at the office, and it's for a position that is currently vacant. So there's that aspect in your consideration of it. My understanding is at the LEA level, this money is used for professional learning. We don't have available. It would take some time to reach out to them and say, are you paying for positions with this money, or how to? But that's pretty much the essence of what this funding is used for, is a position here, which is now vacant, and professional learning at the LEA level.
Thank you.
Superintendent.
Yeah. So, I understand why you would want to weigh in, want us to weigh in on each of these. Without, going into, a long history, these were cuts that staff identified as being less impactful than others. These grants are generally, I don't consider them to be large enough to be ongoing staff. They are generally project grants rather than staffing grants in general. As the chair said, it's all going to be impactful, but these are cuts that were identified as less impactful than others.
Member Earl.
I'd like to make a substitute motion. And this isn't, I actually agree with the previous motion, but my substitute motion would actually bring the LFA recommendations before the body so we can make considerations related to those. So that would be my substitute motion.
You're welcome to.
Substitute motions have to be directly related to the substantive content of the original motion. And so Member Earl's motion would be outside the scope if she's moving the entire LFA recommendation to the body.
Not sure. Let me understand clarity here, Member Earl. I'm not sure if you're
I
moving the
guess
entire or asking
what
to
I'm
work
saying is
from
that
it.
I would bring it before the body so the body could consider it. Meaning that if we're working off of this document versus individually selecting, right? Is that what we're trying to do? Is take this over and make this ours? Or are we working off of a document to discuss the considerations? I guess that's where maybe it is out of order. I don't know, but I'm asking for that clarification.
From what the motion is currently, it is working off the document. That's why I'm wondering if this is out of order, because we are working off the document. That was the motion, was to strike or repeal line 15 from the Office of the Legislative Fiscal Analyst document, right? So we are currently working from this document already.
So you're saying it's not necessary because we're using this document as a reference? I guess I thought we would have to. Well, I know that. I agree with that one too.
That's my understanding, but
Okay.
yeah,
Well, maybe that's, yeah.
that's my understanding. Member Carey.
It's an interesting motion, one that I support, because if we're working off this document, the LFA document, when was the document placed before the board formally? If I come in on a matter and I say, okay, we're going to start working off this document, there's no foundation. It doesn't come before the board unless it's brought before the board by motion, I would think. And it's my understanding that's what the motion is, to bring it properly before the board.
Can we just take, I hate to start taking saunters, but I don't want to spend a whole lot of formal time figuring this out. I'd rather just take time to figure out the process appropriately and then get it done so we don't spend the majority of our time.
Me too,
on
and
this.
that's why I made the motion, because I agree with
Yeah.
I was feeling like that was an amendment or something, but maybe it's not.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then it would be good to get clarification.
Let's take 3 minutes. Thank you. Okay, thank you, members of the board. Thank you, public, for your patience with us. Back to you, Member Earl. Let me, hold on, I'm trying. There you go.
Thank you for the quick clarification. I just wanted to make sure if we were using something that was before the body, but I see that we're referencing something and we're putting it on a list that we have. So I'm going to withdraw my motion. And I appreciate the clarity that board members had to articulate that. So thank you.
Point of order, Member Lear.
So what's the conclusion to that, those competing motions?
Yep. So what happened was when we opened this agenda item, Scott brought forth the document that we had worked on last time. That's what we are working on now. And so Member Bogus is simply taking an item from one document and moving it to the one that we are working on currently. Remember, let me restate the motion, and then I've got some lights I'll call on. But the motion, for clarity, is that the board recommend a full reduction of the competency-based education grants discontinuation and also repeal all relevant code. I've got lights from Member Davis and Member Bogus. Member Bogus, I know you've spoken to this. Is this? I think that was just my point of order. Okay. I apologize. So Member Davis then is okay. So seeing no additional lights, let's go ahead and tee this up for a vote. And when voting is open, I will call on those online. Voting is open. Member Wood? Yeah. Oh, man. Sorry. Throw it at you. Member Wood, is she still with us? Vice Chair Wood?
Yes.
She, thank you, Vice Chair Wood. So this passes. Oh, Vice Chair Wood, we still got you and your family. This passes 13 in favor, 1 in opposition. Those opposed coming from Member Carey. In the queue, I've got Jenny, Member Earl.
Yes, I would move. Thank you. And I'm so grateful for that clarification because this helps me. So I'm just referencing number 7, number 9, number 33, and number 34. So 7, 9, 33, and 34. This is my motion, and then I need to get some staff clarification on the funding. But I would recommend that that we don't, in place of those 4 items, we recommend cutting foundation program. And then I would, if I get a second.
Okay, we've got a partial motion on the board. Looks like we have some clarification that might be coming forward.
Working off this, you would just make your motion.
I certainly can do it because I don't want these cuts.
But these are not cuts we're recommending. We're working on the document on the left.
We're only recommending these cuts.
We're only going to recommend what goes on the left.
So this is why I asked the question a minute ago related to this. I'm responding to this, meaning I can recommend a cut, but I want to allocate where I want the funding to go and where I do not want it to be cut on their recommendation. So this is what I'm going to recommend, and it is related to this document.
So
Okay.
I think what would be in order is the foundation. Is that one on here?
Foundation programs is not on here, but I would
Okay.
like
So-
staff to speak to it so that we understand what it is, because I don't want us to. I had several questions over the last week related to it, and I want to make sure board members understand what it is, because to me, 7, 9, 33, and I'll read these out so that the public knows. So 7 is.
So Member Earl, I think that's where in order to stay in order, I think we're just saying, instead of bouncing back and forth between sheets, we can simply say, I move to reduce the related to basic realignment charter school based funding, which is number 7, right? Just read it out. That's what we're saying. Because that's on our list as well as it's one of our budgetary. We have the right to recommend that or not. So
I'm sorry, I'm not following you at all.
Well,
but tell me one more time. I
so-
apologize.
no, you're good. You're saying Well, yeah.
I don't want them to remove the charter-based funding, and I don't want them to. Yeah, that's right. Pupil transportation to and from school, what they're recommending, but in place of that, I'm recommending a cut somewhere else. Is that too confusing to do?
So I think when we go before the legislator, I would, if this passes, I would say as part of our list, the foundation would be on there, and then as part of a information, we could say we recommend if the board wills it, but. Right now, we're not recommending any of these being cut, so we don't need to recommend to them not to cut them. We're recommending them not to cut anything that we don't put on there, if that makes sense. So if
Okay.
it's not on our list, we're recommending to them not to cut it. That's how I'm seeing this. So we're playing two different things here. Either we're accepting their document and saying change this as we are asking, or we work from our own document and say we're asking to reduce, the foundation.
And I would argue that we need to communicate, because this is what's going to come before them tomorrow, and that as I'm looking at their document, that's coming before them. We're providing recommendations. That's all we're providing. We're not cutting programs. We're providing recommendations, and they're making a decision on that. But as we're doing that, as I looked at these, there are key things on here that if that's what they move forward with, I would not be okay. So. I would not agree with that. I would just simply say that this money, in place of cutting those, I would recommend we made the cuts here. Or I don't know whether they're doing reallocations or cuts, but that's what I would recommend.
Scott, you've been through this. Go ahead.
So tomorrow, the LFA is going to present this as is, right? They're going to just present it to, and then the expectation is that board leadership will present your sheet too. You can do this process of saying, well, we agree that the LFA, what they're proposing should be on our sheet. That's fine. But what happens after tomorrow's meeting is we work with them. Once both present, then subsequent PEA meetings are where we address and when we have the opportunity to say, we don't agree with the LFAs. Now, you can do that here today. I see what Board Member Earl is saying. She's saying that where can we have input to say that we disagree with what the LFA proposes tomorrow? And they say, if you want to do that here today. I'm just saying that the expectation for tomorrow is they present theirs. That's not going to change. You present yours that you work on today. Then subsequent meetings would be the opportunity to say, as we move together through the legislative session and the PEA meetings, they will go in these budget categories, in these line items in subsequent meetings. And that is also an opportunity for you as the board to come forward and say, we don't agree with okay. So there's that. But I do see, if you want us to capture your motions in addition to what you're going to recommend on your sheet, you want to also take this time to say, we don't support these recommendations by the LFA. We certainly can help do that, but there will be other opportunities as well as we move with the PEA committee through the subsequent meetings to tomorrow. So does that help, or hopefully?
It helps
It's just
me.
that's your decision point. Do you want to get right out front on this right now and say, you could send a memo to them, saying, we looked at your recommendations and these are the ones we don't agree with. And the ones we do agree with, we did move to our sheet, or you could do it that way. Or in subsequent meetings, you could come forward and say, this is not what we prefer. I hope that makes sense. So
That's helpful. I've got Member Carey, Member Kelly, and then Member Earl, and I want to make sure that Member Earl's motion, because this is what we're trying to tackle right now. So, Member Earl, I'm going to call on you, and then, like I said, I've got Member Carey and Member Kelly.
So you're telling me that I can just recommend a reduction, and that anything else I want to recommend, I have to do at another time.
We are.
Is that what I'm hearing?
If I'm understanding correctly, we are recommending reductions. We're not battling out their sheet, like what we agree with or what we don't agree with. Oh, absolutely. It could be on there, and it would be.
I just don't know why we couldn't reference the reasoning why there, but
The reasoning is fine.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an issue with that.
okay, this
But-
is my motion then.
But what we're presenting, from what I understand, that the PA has asked us to present was our reductions, not counters to the LFA recommendations. Tomorrow, yes. And as Scott said, this is an ongoing conversation. So let's get back to the motion here, and it is that the board recommend a reduction to the foundation programs, and you want to add to that, Member Earl.
I'm not sure.
I think so. I think, Chair, she wants to hear from Sam about the
I
foundation program
want
at this
the public
time.
to know what the foundation program's in. It's not education foundations, right? That supports putting grants in schools and stuff. I want it clearly what this particular program is. And the reason why I want to, and why I emphasize 733 and 7933 and 34 is because those are key things that schools have to do. And so that's why I'm looking at this other program going, if there's going to be cuts, I wouldn't want them to these programs because they provide key things for our schools. And so the other, to me, is things that could be done more localized. So, okay, but I would be interested if someone could present about what the foundation is so we all know whether that's.
Let's see if we can get a second to this motion. We got a second. Member Earl, you've kind of spoken to it. I know you're asking for staff. I'm going to get to Member Carey and Member Kelly, and then we can get to staff if that's okay. Member Carey?
Oh, I was in queue for a motion, but it seems like this issue was resolved. So I'll withhold comment. Thank you.
I've got your name written down in the queue. Member Kelly?
Yeah, I'll be short too, but I still want to be in the queue. I see what Board Member Earl's trying to do, and I support what she's trying to do, which is, as a board, I think it's good for us to let the LFA know that there are certain items on this list that we don't see as reasonable cuts. And so if we were to somehow send that message or vote that, these are items that we would prefer to stay funded, fully funded, and that we would recommend other things be cut in place of or instead of.
If this vote does go through, then I don't have an issue, and I don't think Vice Chair Bollinger or Vice Chair Wood or staff would have an issue saying, as one of our adjustments, we looked at the foundation, and we were hoping to X, Y, or Z. I don't have a problem speaking to those things, but that I'm just letting you know that's not what they're asking for. So, like I said, I don't have a problem with that. I've got a light from where we're at staff next. So Scott, are you? Let's.
Is she recommending 100% of the foundation funds be? Okay, just clarify.
That's correct. Is the amount the foundation program is $27,610,900.
Yes, and Sam's prepared at your direction to speak about or on the foundation, or he can defer to Mr. Frost if he wants.
Which
Sam is right here, sir.
Sam, go ahead.
Yeah. Sam Uri, School Finance Director. So the capital outlay program is contained in 53F-3202. Reading directly from the code, the foundation program is to provide capital outlay programs. So we're talking about, this is under the school building program line item, to a school district based on a district's local property tax effort and property tax yield per student compared to a foundation guarantee funding level. We can go into the weeds, but without going too far into the weeds, that's basically districts. It's part of property tax equalization efforts, trying to help districts with high property tax rates and low property tax yields. Some of those districts that are benefiting from this program right now are Davis School District, Nebo School District, Tooele School District, San Juan School District. The impacts to districts specifically are going to be varied, and this is one program because of the way the statute is, the formula is in statute that can be somewhat variable year to year depending on property tax changes in those districts. So happy to go further into it, but that's the overview of this program.
Member Booth?
Just in response to the information from Sam, I wanted to just mention that my superintendent in Nebo, which of course Sam just mentioned, indicated as I was seeking his input on cuts across the board, he said cutting capital outlay is a big deal to Nebo and other poor and generally growing districts, but only a few districts benefit, so it's easy for everyone else to recommend cutting it. So, I think he sees the writing on the wall, but I wanted to register his concern, the fact that he took the time to let me know that as one of the growing and poorer districts, it will hurt, but he understands that it only benefits a few, so everyone else will think it's a great place to cut. Nebo would prefer that it wasn't cut, but we understand we're all going to be involved in things we don't like to do. Thank you.
Member Carey?
Thank you, Chair. This may be best directed to Sam Uri. You talked about there were a handful of districts that benefit. Does that mean the districts that weren't mentioned are adversely impacted, or is it a neutral impact? Could you address that through the chair? Thank you, Chair.
Sam, thank you.
That's correct, Member Carey. If I didn't mention a district, I didn't mention all of the districts. There's a small base for some districts, but only about 10 districts total are receiving funding. The other districts are not receiving any funding at all at this point.
Chair, right, and to me that's a neutral impact, right? It's not
Right.
costing these other districts funding. And just to the broader issue, again, I have the same concern I had on, feels like 2 weeks ago, but I think it was just Tuesday. But I have the same concern, which is we are looking at this and saying, oh, this account has money in it, let's nix it, right? This account has funding in it, let's take it. And we have not gone through our committee process. We have not gone through the vetting that these typically get. The board just passed a motion that said we're going to repeal all relevant code. And I was tempted to ask Deputy Jones, do we have a list of all relevant code? And if we do, I certainly haven't had a chance to look at it and read it, but here we are recommending that it disappear. When we did that before, we upended work that the board did, well, potentially. So I'm just concerned. I don't think it should be down to just the dollars and cents. And just like this discussion we had, yes, there's certain districts that benefit, but that doesn't necessarily mean other districts are benefiting. It's a neutral impact on them. Those are the issues that I think deserve more vetting, deserve more discussion rather than just there's money here, let's go after it. Thank you, Chair.
And for clarity to board members and the public, and I understand what Member Carey's saying, like understanding these things take time. But just for clarity, the budget process, we don't go through a committee, but we do like to make sure it's done correctly, right? And so I've got lights from Member Earl, Member Lear, and Member Davis. So Member Earl.
Yeah. Can I just ask a couple of members of staff just a couple questions? The charter school base funding, will it impact just a couple of charters, or would it impact all charters?
If you recall, the board voted to use the one-time funding for all charters. The statutory formula would still exclude charters under or enrolling students over 2,000, but it would basically affect every charter.
Okay. And the pupil transportation, is that localized? I mean, it's only like 4 or 5 districts that would be impacted, or
Pupil transportation would affect all districts.
so that would affect all districts.
That's correct.
Okay. And then back to the foundation program, do districts know, or those that apply for this? I don't know if I guess it's just districts. It's not charters, right? Do you?
There's my light. Yes, it's a formula. Districts know their amounts. Just Cash is receiving a little over $4 million. Davis, a little over $5 million. Nebo, a little over $9 million. San Juan, over
And
$2 million.
Yeah.
South
That's this
San
year,
Pete,
right? That's
this year.
those that are funding this year. We're not cutting that funding. Do we know who's impacted next year, or do we have to wait till all the taxes come out and so we don't know who's impacted?
It would
So-
be fairly similar, roughly similar. The amounts will change. Sorry, I missed Tooele on that list too, but it will change. We don't know the exact
Okay.
impacts at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Member Lear.
I think what Jenny asked got to about half of what I was trying to find out. The capital outlay program, as you explained it, you consistently said districts. So how does it affect charter schools? How would a cut to this program, or how would adding money to it or cutting the program affect charter schools?
The Capital Outlay Foundation program doesn't directly affect charter schools.
So that's another way of saying that it would hurt some districts significantly, but not hurt any charter schools,
That's correct.
which doesn't seem, to me, you think it's accurate or inaccurate?
Where are we going? Are we getting into a?
I just want to, I
This
want an
specific
accurate statement,
program-
of course. I'm sorry.
This specific program doesn't directly impact
capital
charter school
outlay.
revenue.
Right.
Right.
And I'm looking myself for things that, to the extent possible, affect all LEAs fairly, which is a kind of a big word. But thank you. That helps me understand that.
Okay. So, seeing no additional lights, let's go ahead and tee this up for a vote here. And the motion is that the board recommend 100% reduction to the foundation programs. And with that, the conversation of with the PEA or LFA that we would rather not see items 7, 9, 33, and 34 reduced. Let's get that ready for a vote, and as soon as voting is open, there it is.
I'm sorry. I need one.
Let's pause this. There's a motion to divide. Is there a second? Not hearing a second, let's get back to it. Let's unfreeze this voting and let's get going. Vice Chair Wood,
Yes.
So the question is the motion different than on the screen? So we can't fit all of it on there, so that's why I restated it. But the motion is that the board recommends 100% reduction to the foundation programs, and then in our conversations, we will, if it's the will of the board, we will say to the PEA, we would rather not see items 7, 9, 33, and 34 removed from their funding. That's the motion. I don't know if one, I don't know if one is specifically tied to the other. Because like I said, I can have this conversation. We're moving to reduce the foundation programs. And in conversations, if it's the will of the board, I can let them know that the board would prefer not to reduce 7, 9, 33, or 34. That doesn't mean that if they remove the foundation, they have to do this or otherwise. LFAs or the PEA is going to do what they need to do anyway. We're just making recommendations and following up with conversations. So I need 2 more votes. That motion fails. 7 in favor, 7 opposed. Those opposed coming from Member Carey, Member Davis, Member Reel, Member Longacre, Member Booth, Member Bogus, and Member Lear. Next, I have Scott. Go ahead. Before I've got Member Kelly next, but Scott,
Right.
go ahead.
So we'll remove it now from your tracker because the board did not ratify reducing the foundation by 100%. So we're back on the same target.
Yep, perfect. Thank you, Member Kelly.
I'm going to speak specifically on the LFA list to item number 34. And when it was brought to my attention of what exactly this is, I will share how it was explained to me, and then I'll make my motion. But this, the USDB was able to get approved, and I don't know if it was in code or if it was in rule, but basically a steps and lanes program that allowed their teachers to be competitively paid compared to the rest of the districts in the state. This would replace that steps and lanes increase with the standard state salary adjustment. And I think as we're looking at these cuts, I think it's a mistake to go to some of our most prized educators and say, we've made your salary competitive. We're going to no longer do that. We're going to take that back. And so I just wanted to publicly speak against item 34, but I have a motion that I think can help replace this. And then I'll speak to my motion after the motion. But I would like to make the motion to direct staff to provide the board with ratios of classroom teachers measured on classes taught, not FTEs, admin, and support staff for LEAs and charters.
Okay.
I tried to email it to you, and I couldn't get my email to work, but I got it on a napkin.
Yeah, we're going to make sure it's correct on the screen. While it's coming up there, board members, I know that many of you don't agree with what's happening today, and don't want to be put out there. Quite frankly, I don't either. But we are tasked with reducing by 5%. And I get, like, I appreciate Member Kelly's comments on 34. But again, this is a sheet we're not working from, and we're not telling the LFA what we think that they should put on their sheet. They're asking us for our own sheet. So this comes back to the same conversation that we had about Member Earl's, right? Like, we're not telling them what to put or take off of their sheet. We're telling them our recommendations. And although I appreciate this motion that's happening here, it doesn't get us anywhere towards what the task at hand is. So
let me speak to it, and then because I do believe that it can get us there.
It can. Okay. So
Yeah.
the motion is, and let's make sure we have this correct. It's been seconded, but make sure we have this correct. The motion is that the board directs staff to provide the board with ratios of classroom teachers measured on classes taught, not FTE, administration, and support staff for LEAs and charters. Back
Correct.
to you, Member Kelly.
Yeah. Here's my reason for this motion, and what I'm a classroom teacher. That's no surprise. I've often watched district offices explode in terms of size, in terms of administrative overhead, and I want to see hard numbers, and as a board be able to look and see, all right, we have this many classroom teachers, we have this many administrators, we have this many support staff, and these are the ratios of classroom teachers to administrators to support staff, so that we can look at that and say, are our district offices bloated? Are they full of administrators getting paid six-figure incomes that we need to look at possibly reducing the ratio of teacher to admin, and ensuring that that the money is getting to the classroom, and that the classroom teacher is where we're sending our focus. Now, I'm somebody who believes in local control. I think local control is important, but if our districts and our charters are blowing, a ton of money on administrative positions, and it's impacting the classroom, I think that's something that we should look at. These numbers, I think, would allow us to look at. There are states out there that are capping their ratios and saying that if you have this many classroom teachers, then you are capped at this many administrative positions based on that. So that's what my motion looks at. Thank you.
Member Davis?
I'm in line for a motion.
Member Longacre?
Thanks. This is a motion I can totally get behind, because a lot of times I hear from parents in the district that we fund from the top and then the money finally trickles down to the classroom. And I think right now we need to fund the classroom first and then let the money go up. So I appreciate and like this motion. Thank you, Board Member Kelly.
Vice Chair Bollinger?
Thank you. And I too appreciate the meaning behind this, Member Kelly, and we all want money to be in the classroom. And I will give you kind of maybe a different perspective, because I thought the same thing. When I was a teacher, I used to think, okay, our principal's making some decisions that really this money needs to be in the classroom. And then when I was a principal, I thought the same thing about the state. Now at a state level, right, you originally want to think it's the legislature, but really it's the whole system as a whole. And as I've seen these programs that we see, every program that we have on this list takes administrative oversight because it has to do with funding. It takes administrative assistants helping track that. So with that, I think there is, I mean, we obviously can do better at reducing class sizes. We want that to happen. We want the money to go to the classroom. But I think that we need to make sure that we're clear on every one of these programs also adds a report and oversight of funding, which does require administrative staffing. And so I just want us to be clear. And again, I think it's great to get this data, to have some information. I don't know that it helps us right today in the task we're having at, but I also want to be clear that every time there's a program that passes, it does require things administrative. So when you look at that, it doesn't matter. We do want the money to go to our schools. So if we're talking about making sure money goes to our classrooms, we need to have not so many programs that need oversight, and it needs to be more in flexible allocations. And so I just want to be clear on that piece, because I think sometimes there's just a misunderstanding that districts want to just add people to add people. They're adding people because they have to have an administrator oversee the funding legally. So just wanted to add that context.
Member Carey.
Thank you, Chair. I support this motion because it's a motion for data, and it's a motion that will help us be better informed to make the best decisions. And my big objection to the process that we're in now is, let's not look at the data, let's not do the thorough vetting that's required, but let's just meet this deadline. And it's information like this, it's data like this that will allow us to make better decisions. And I support that. So thank you.
Member Kelly, back to you.
It's not my intention to smear all administrators. I do recognize that administrators do an important job, and there's important roles that they need to play. I want to just kind of clarify something in the motion and tell you why I worded it the way that I did. I put classroom teachers measured on classes taught, not FTEs, because one of the things that I'm seeing is FTE positions being used for administrative roles, and I'm concerned that what that's doing is it's taking away FTEs that are really intended to make sure that we're reducing classroom size. One of the arguments we've been making for 30 plus years is reducing classroom size, and so when we're using FTEs for administrative roles, I think it does a disservice to our students. And so just understanding those ratios, understanding, and that's, I did ask if Deputy Superintendent Jones wanted to speak to it. If this is something that we can, data that we can aggregate out, is that the appropriate term to say, hey, we want to look at, how many teachers that we're paying teacher salaries are getting, and then administrative positions that are maybe FTEs, using FTEs, but then administrative positions that the district is paying and as administrators. Because I know I inquired with Auditor Dougal one time about some positions, and I says, I'm just curious to know, are these individuals using FTEs that really should be for classroom teachers, or are they getting paid admin salaries from the district? And in my inquiry, I was asking about 5, and 3 of them were using FTEs and had no students. So this is where I want to make sure that FTEs are being used for classroom teachers and making sure students are in those classes.
Member Lear.
Thank you. I have 3 points that concern me. First of all, receiving accurate data from 160 LEAs is not a simple proposition. And to do that before we do this budgeting is probably unlikely unless we're comfortable with hasty data, and I'm not. Secondly, I think local control equals local decision making, sometimes that we don't necessarily understand or like. There are some LEAs, and we've actually dealt with a couple who've gotten crosswise with special ed because of this. Some LEAs choose to use more paras than teachers. So that's going to look, because of a local control concept, it's going to look skewed. And we may or may not, I don't particularly like that. I believe in licensed teachers. On the other hand, some LEAs feel that's a strong way to help classrooms and maybe reduce class sizes. Thirdly, I think that teacher administrative positions go both ways, and sometimes we don't acknowledge that. In small districts, principals teach classes. In very small districts, principals drive buses. And accounting for all of that in a hasty survey is not going to give me the accurate data I want. So I'm concerned about, I think, well, not to mention the fact that there's been a couple of administrative to teacher studies in the last 10 to 12 years, and every time Utah is near the, whatever it's the highest or the lowest in terms of we have a very low percentage of, and I hope I'm saying that right, percentage of administrators to teachers. It's very tight compared to many states. So I feel like I have enough information about that I don't want to task our staff with doing this when I'm concerned that we won't get an accurate picture, and that it, I think, doesn't account for local control.
Member Bogus.
Thank you. Is Director Bruff anywhere, or maybe Superintendent Jones can answer this? I'm just concerned that we're not using the right language for the information we want. I don't. Can I ask a question? Is that acceptable to you, Chair?
I think Scott is ready.
So, Director or Superintendent Jones, I'm not certain you can answer this, but are we wanting to know classroom teachers, or actually those who are on teacher contracts that are teaching classes, as opposed to those who are on teacher contracts who are not teaching classes? For example, instructional coaches, PAR coaches, ELA coaches, math coaches, teacher mentors, people who are not actually interfacing with students, because that's a very different way of saying it than saying not FTE. FTE is, I mean, your superintendent is an FTE. So I'm just wondering if this is going to get us the information we want.
Chair, so my understanding in some quick conversations with Board Member Kelly is, yes, it does. If my understanding is that what we're seeking is a ratio of administrators to classroom teachers. So if the LEA is coding them as a classroom teacher, which we do get that level of detail, then they also provide us once a year their administrator count as well. So we would just take that data. It's only one time per year, so we wouldn't likely do a new survey. We would just use, it typically comes in around the October, November timeframe. We could produce that ratio saying, okay, in this LEA, they reported, and it is subject to their, we are subject to their accuracy or lack of accuracy. We would establish that in this LEA, they're coding X amount of positions as administrative and X amount of positions as classroom teachers, and then provide that of course with.
May I follow up?
Well, we just do, if they coded the positions as administrator, we just keep it strictly as administrator versus classroom teacher ratio. So,
Okay.
Go ahead.
So my concern is actually
licensed
part
classroom
of what you
teachers.
brought up. So when they report, could I draw the logical conclusion that when you're talking about that report, it's the same report that goes into Cactus? So if I were to look up a teacher
Yes.
on Cactus and it says 100% of their allocation is ELA in such and such a school district, and that right there is my concern, is that we're reporting individuals on teacher contracts as teachers everywhere. I mean, we've got teachers that are being tagged, and I understand that's not you, that's from the
right.
LEA.
Right.
But if that's the data we're using, I'm very concerned that we're not going to get a very clear picture of classroom teachers, as opposed to all these auxiliary jobs that are being coded as teachers. And that's my concern. I just want to make certain that when we ask for it, we're going to get what we ask for, and that the data is not corrupted.
Chair, we have the capability of filtering out and going just with what they're reporting as a licensed classroom teacher. Now, whether that's accurate or not, I cannot speak to that. And then we can also filter out that they are categorizing or coding that particular position as an administrator. And I can't speak to that because then we get into the space, I think, of like our rural districts where half the day that principal spends as being a principal and the other half is a classroom teacher. So that's the best that we will be able to do. That's the best we'll be able to do. And it's all dependent upon how they are coding those positions when they report it to us. They are putting their own data in. So even if we did a survey, we'd still be reliant on them telling us precisely that. Now we have other ways of verifying that they're a classroom or that they are a licensed teacher, but that doesn't mean that they're actually day on day out going in and teaching in a classroom. They may be coded that way, but that's coded at the local level. And so your concerns and all concerns about accuracy and reliability of data are noted. So, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Member Davis?
I'm in queue. But I'll call the question if we need to.
I don't think we don't have any additional lights. Just for the board's awareness, in the queue, I have Carey, Bogus, Davis, and Bollinger.
Okay.
So with that, the motion is that the board directs staff to provide the board with ratios of classroom teachers measured on classes taught, not FTE, administration, and support staff for LEAs and charters. Let's go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Wood?
Yes.
Thank you. We got you as a yes. Okay, that passes 10 in favor, 4 in opposition. Those opposed are Member Booth, Member Reel, Member Hymas, and Member Lear. So next we are at Member Carey. You ready? Okay. Okay. Let's go to Member Bogus.
Thank you. I have a motion. Elise, it's in your inbox. And I would move that the board recommends the reduction of the National Board Certified Teacher Program in the amount of $296,300 and reallocate it to the board's priorities. And part of that is not only do we see it on our LFA's recommendations in number 17. They're recommending eliminating full funding to the organization, but also there's nowhere else where the government
Are you speaking to this?
funds the, yeah. I am, sorry.
I didn't know if you were still explaining your motion. Let's get the motion. And
Oh,
then,
yeah. So
and then I will
the
turn
motion
you
is there.
loose. The motion is that the board recommend a reduction to the National Board Certified Teacher Program in the amount of $296,300 and reallocate it to the board's priorities. That's the motion. Is that correct?
Yep.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a second. And for clarity, remind me the percentage? Is that 100%?
That would be a 100%
Okay.
in both of, there's two different spaces that it's listed. It would be those combined.
Okay.
This is number 17 on the LFA list, but there are not numbers on this list, but there's two different categories. One is the funding to the organization. The other one is a different funding. I saw your head, but I want to make certain that's correct. And so this would pull all of that funding.
And you're speaking to it.
Yeah, I
You've got the
would be happy to
microphone.
speak to it. So one is there's a lot of postgraduate training that is excellent for educators. And there are many who think this is excellent for educators. But I would argue that in no other place do we pick an organization, say this is government approved, and then fund post-secondary training We don't do it for doctors. We don't do it for nurses. We don't pick a program at the University of Utah and say, apply for this and you can go to the University of Utah for free. In no other space do we have this kind of program. And I think in terms of that, it doesn't say that people can't pursue this. It just says that the government's not going to fund the pursuit of your post-secondary, your postgraduate work. And so I think it's a good place to make that cut and to, again, my goal as I look at this is the students. And if people want to pursue this, that's their business. They're more than welcome to. It makes no change to that. It just changes the fact that it's not going to be funded by the taxpayer. So,
Member Davis?
I have a substitute motion. And I'd seek the chair's counsel. I can either substitute, I'm either going to substitute this to match the LFA recommendation of the $50,000 that goes directly to the organization, and then we preserve what goes to the teachers. Or my substitute would have been my next motion, which is to add from the LFA sheet their numbers 17 through 30 and add ProStar. So do you want me to do these in two separate, just substitute
think
the
you're-
line item and then make this motion my thing I'm in queue
Yes,
for? Okay.
please.
Then I would substitute the motion that the amount would match the LFA recommended amount, which is $50,000 on number 17, which eliminates the funding that goes to the organization that supports the teachers. I really don't even want to do this, but that's my substitute motion, and it preserves the one to the teachers. And if I get a second, I'd like to speak to it briefly.
It sounds like it's been seconded. Just for clarity, the motion before the board is that the amount would, okay. This is why we reread. Let's make sure that your motion is correct here, because this is a substitute motion, not an amendment.
Yes.
So let's, the motion then is that the board recommend a reduction to the National Board Certified Teacher Program in the amount of $50,000 and reallocate it to the board's priorities. Is this reallocation thing, is that just a natural thing on these motions, or did you state that?
I think the reallocation is, they already know our priorities. I mean, we can just make a note again at the bottom. We have priorities to consider, plus what Member Earl said earlier, we may want to add to the end later too. But right now, that's just my substitute motion. We got a second? So
We got a second.
Can I speak
Again, so
quickly?
we just took off the reallocate part. I just want to make sure that this is correct. And then, of course, you can speak to it. That the board recommend a reduction to the National Board Certified Teacher Program in the amount of $50,000. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And back to you, Member Davis.
Yeah, I just, if we make any changes to this program, I'd like to preserve the monies to the teachers, because this is one of the very few programs that we actually have data that shows makes a difference for kids in achievement. And, we've talked about the problems with, like, for example, the one that's been suggested where we give teachers pay for increased test scores individually, but this one doesn't hurt the lowest performing kids. And teachers don't say, don't bring in those extra kids to my class because I'm trying to get that bonus of $10,000. They say, I'm going to do this because I know we've seen growth and we've seen data that shows student improvement for all the kids, and it's not going to separate out, who gets which kind of kids. It's something I'd like to preserve for the teachers, even if we don't want to send money to the organization. It's a compromise.
I've got Vice Chair Bollinger, and then Member Carey, then Member Bogus.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, through you, Chair, to staff, I'm just curious. I just want to clarify. So this 50,000 is the amount that goes to the organization, but it would still provide for teachers to get their application portion paid or reimbursed. Is that my understanding correctly? That is the motion.
Scott, do you want to hit the microphone, Scott, and restate that?
So the answer to Vice Chair Bollinger's question is yes. They would still be able to continue to get that level of support if outside of the $50,000 not being sent to the organization. So
If I may follow up. Yeah, I agree with Member Davis as far as this is a great program and as far as increasing the capacity of teachers. I also agree with Member Bogus where I don't want our tax dollars to necessarily go to these outside organizations. And so I appreciate the compromise in this. I also know that there are a lot of local districts that are now using the master pilot program that we have on our list of priorities to help support this as well. So I do know if we do reduce this amount by 50,000, that there are other funds that districts are using to continue to support this work at a district level. So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Carey? Member Bogus?
Yeah. Am I next?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Board Member Davis. I'm going to challenge your data point. This is one thing I've always wondered in education: are these teachers good teachers because they're national board certified teachers, or are they national board certified because they're good teachers? You know, and it's a chicken or the egg type thing, right? And it's as a teacher myself, I have 2 master's degrees. Did the 2 master's degrees make me a better teacher? And I'm not trying to say education isn't important, that we shouldn't continue to try to improve, learn, grow in our profession, grow in our, but I'm not necessarily sure that like titles, degrees are what make great teachers great. And so I'm going to support Board Member Bogus's motion.
Next, I've got Member Bogus.
Thank you, sir. I would just speak against this motion. I think that, again, if teachers want to go through this program, they can totally do it. It just doesn't put that burden on the taxpayer. And nowhere else in our code that I am aware of, people are welcome to disagree with me and make me smarter, but nowhere else am I aware of something where you produce postgraduate learning and the bill can be sent to the taxpayer. And so I just don't think that it's necessary. They can pursue it all they want. And the merits of that pursuit are not really what I'm talking about right here. I'm just talking about postgraduate work at the expense of a taxpayer. And so I would ask the board to support the original motion. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other lights, let's tee this substitute motion up. And again, to restate, it is that the board recommend a reduction to the National Board Certified Teacher Program in the amount of $50,000. Let's go ahead and vote. Member or Vice Chair Wood?
Yes.
Is a yes. Thank you. That motion fails. 9 opposed, 5 in favor. Those in favor being Member Booth, Member Wood, Member Bollinger, Member Lear, and Member Davis. This brings us back to the underlying motion, which is that the board recommend a full reduction to the National Board Certified Teacher Program in the amount of $296,300 and reallocate it to the board's priorities. Member Carey.
May I direct a question to staff, Chair? And do we have an approximation of how many of our teachers take advantage of this opportunity in a given year on average?
yeah, we need Dr. Height to speak to that. I don't have that in front of me. So if she's available, we can ask if she can come in and follow up with that question, Chair, at your direction, sir. So I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Superintendent, I mean, we recognize that this is a unique meeting, so, or what do you want to do? She'll reach out, see if we can get the numbers, see if you can ask that question, and it might come a little bit later, but.
Yeah, and Chair, it's not dispositive to how I would vote, so thank you.
Okay, seeing no additional lights, let's go ahead and get ready for a vote. And the motion is that the board recommend a full reduction to the National Board Certified Teacher Program in the amount of $296,300 and reallocate it to the board's priorities. Again, Member Bogus, is that part of your motion, the reallocation part? Okay, that's on there then. Let's go ahead and vote. Member Wood
Yes.
is a yes. Thank you. Okay, that passes. 8 in favor, 6 in opposition. Those opposed being Member Booth, Member Longacre, Member Reel, Member Davis, Member Lear, and Member Carey. Next, I've got, Scott, go ahead.
So we have logged that, the board approved that. We are $131 million away from target.
Thank you. That actually is helpful. So I appreciate that. Next in our queue, we have Member Davis.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the board adds numbers 18 through 30 referencing the LFA document to our list and add ProStart to that.
Okay. So, Member Davis, is this your, sorry, we've got some discrepancies in there because we have 7, 9. Is that correct?
Actually, I'm not going to add ProStart. I think that'll get divided. Let's just keep it for clarity right now. If someone else wants to add that, they can. Let's just do numbers 18 through 30.
So for clarity, you want to take the recommendations 18 through 30 and move them to our list?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And this list is public, to my knowledge.
It is, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Do we have a second?
Oh, she just left. My second.
We have a second. Okay, back to you, Member Davis, to speak to the motion. Again, the motion's being typed, so let's make sure we get it. We've been burned by not having a complete motion before, so let's make sure that we have this. Before you start speaking to it, will you just keep an eye on the screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, the motion then is that the board recommend a reduction to the programs listed on the LFA recommendation document on lines 18 through 30. Member Davis, please.
My question in doing this is, what happens within the USBE agency if we support these recommendations from PEA? People-wise, I know we have already heard, Chair, that the 114,000 FTE is not going to be enough for us to hire an employee. But will this recommendation reduce employees? Because we're already asking for 9 additional to try to cover all the work we need to keep compliance and standards with the legislature.
So Chair, Board Member Davis has asked, what impacts 18 through 30 would be. Not all would result in FTEs, but some might. So I would need to go through each one to answer that question. Would you like me to do that at this time? Or I really can't. I mean, there would be impacts of 18 through 30 because those are a lot of line items and there are a lot of funding. But some may result in the reduction of FTEs, but others may not. So
would it be possible to put this motion on hold and let the next one go through while we get that number?
We could do that. I just don't know when
Yeah,
Scott is going to be able to do the work.
So we would need to go through each one. Chair, based on the motion, it's 18 through 30. That's 12 items. So I'd need staff to go through each one and say, yes, we use this money to pay for FTEs. No, we don't.
Some of these are
So-
surplus, so I'm assuming
Well,
those are not
those are the one-time
used
ones, yes. So
for-
the one-time ones is
Yeah.
just surplus, but that's a very small amount, and it's only 2 of the 12
Right.
roughly. So we would need time to go through each one of the recommended ones to come back and say to it. I'd probably need at least an hour.
Okay. So postpone.
It's your motion. It's been seconded. What would you like to do?
I move to postpone this item to the later, an hour.
Point of information, Member Lee.
How much total money is it?
Mm,
4 million ongoing. It's not. The biggest one is number 21, which is the Turnaround Leadership Act
It's a
for 1
million.
million, but it's a surplus, so I'm not sure if that's going to impact us, make a staff impact.
Yeah, okay.
So surpluses would not. Oh, I'm sorry, Chair, if I may, surpluses would not affect positions because what they're trying to do is they're trying to. So there's evidence that year after year, if you're given $100,000 for a particular program, and 3 years in a row you only spent 90 of the $100,000, they're just trying to reduce the appropriation to tighten up against or mitigate against having carry forward balances, not entirely, but trying to lessen that. So when you look at the LFA sheet and you see surplus in there, that's what that means. And those would not, this is why I'm saying we would need to go through each one. Those would not likely affect FTE counts.
May I
right?
ask a follow-up, Chair?
Follow up, please.
So it seems like then we would only need to look at items 25 and 26. No, those are one time. The rest are contracts.
Well, so
Do
then
we have FTE built into our into these contracts? That's what we have
we
to
do
check.
have some FTEs that, well, lack of a better term, oversee the contracts or are tied into that, but that's where we need a little bit more time to ensure that it may be, some of the money may stay with us and not be, it might be a percentage of the appropriation that goes to the contractor.
Yeah, I'm just looking down the lines and I don't.
Yeah,
there are
the surplus
very
ones,
few that
those
would
are easy
involve
to back
FTE.
up. Yeah, but, and I know I said an hour, but we want to be
Sure,
clear.
sure,
We want to
sure.
be precise. I don't want to say something that unduly informs a decision by the board.
Okay, so I move to postpone this motion until we can get a number of FTE that would be impacted by this motion.
I'm sorry, will you repeat that? I was distracted by Member Kelly. I'm going to be honest with you, and I want the public to know it. So, Member Davis, will you?
Member Kelly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I move that we postpone this item until we get the number of FTE that will be impacted by the motion.
Thank you. There's a motion to postpone. It's been seconded. And it's until when?
Until we get the number of FTE.
Until we have the information. Okay. It's been seconded. Do you want to speak additionally to it?
No, sir.
I do have Superintendent Hart and Member Lear, so. Yep. Member Lear.
I have a question so that I can understand both this motion and, though I seconded it, and others coming along. On the surplus issue, I want to make sure I'm understanding. So if an LEA was given $100,000 for, in some kind of distribution for a program and was told it had to spend 90% of it and kept 10% of it in the year, in every year, you're wincing like that's not ever the case.
No, I'm wincing because of the air quality.
Okay, I will not.
Listening, ma'am.
Yeah, it's okay. I want to make sure I'm explaining it clearly. So they're told that LEA is told that it can keep 10% of it, and then it does that, keeps the 10%, and now the legislature's saying to LEAs through us, just kidding, we're going to take your 10%, though you were saving it to have some great program or situation in the end, and you were following the rules. But now, because you followed the rules and we need your surplus, we're taking it all back. I know there's a little bit of tone in there, but is that an accurate characterization?
It actually could be. However, what they're looking at here is the example. So an LEA, a district through the chair, a district is granted $100,000. Okay. If they don't spend that, if they keep 90 or if they keep 10% of that, they spend, then that would result in a surplus.
Right.
And so, yes, then, we would report that they hadn't used that. We do try to ensure that we communicate with the LEAs. Hey, you haven't drawn this money down yet. What's going on? But sometimes LEAs do choose not to draw down the whole amount, or they don't have sufficient
And sorry to
allowable
interrupt you,
expenses.
Scott.
Yeah, no, fine.
But
go
I'm
ahead.
only looking for the circumstances where they've been told they don't have to spend it all.
I
Or is
don't
it-
really
there's
think we do that.
there's
I
an
don't,
expectation that they
yeah,
spend
we
it
really
all
don't.
annually.
We don't really say, here's a
That's-
grant for $100,000 and you should keep 10%
Well,
as
then
surplus.
I'm
We-
thinking of other programs where sometimes it is allowed to be stockpiled and sometimes
it's
to a
allowed.
Member
fault.
Lear, it's just,
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop for just a second because you guys keep interrupting each other. If we can have one person
Okay,
talk at a
sure.
time.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
Thank
Scott.
That's my fault.
Go ahead, Scott.
No, my fault.
My fault.
But
No, I mean, they are allowed to keep balances. The public education money, we are the only agency that is allowed what's called non-lapsing, where if we don't spend it at the end of the year or our LEAs don't, it can go. That's the term you hear, carry forward.
You've answered my question.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
ma'am. So, okay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Superintendent Hart.
Yes. So I have an answer on the National Board Certified Teachers. Out of 3,600 teachers, approximately, 383 have National Board certification. Some of those, however, aren't working and have let their their certification expire. So at some point, 383 received it. We do not have current number of how many are practicing that have also kept up their license. So some number less than 383.
Thank you, Superintendent. So this brings us back to the motion to postpone. Member Davis's motion, it's been stated, it's been seconded, questions have been asked. Let's go ahead and, is there any opposition to, go ahead, Member Carey.
So I understood that Deputy Jones said it would take about an hour, give or take. But my concern, or I guess my question is, he's sitting here answering these other questions. So if somebody could help me just better understand how this is going to work logistically, so Member Davis can get her information, but Deputy Jones has the time to really eyeball this and get us a workable number. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, same concern. I know your clone in the back is working diligently, but usually the copies are not as good as the original. So Scott, help us get there.
Deputy Jones relies heavily on other staff. Sue Mack has been assigned this task, so we just need to give her time to do that. So,
thank you. We just refer to all of your staff as Deputy Jones. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So there's a motion to postpone. Is there any opposition to that motion? Not seeing any or hearing any online, we'll consider that postponed. Next in the queue, I have member or vice chair. Oh, go ahead.
so just so the public can see this and board members, we have put this in as placeholder on your sheet. Okay, so we're moving forward. So we'll come back to you in now about 45 minutes. What does it put it down to on the target? If this thing just for situational awareness moving forward, where are we at? So target is now at 128 million
Pending.
that
Okay.
motion. Yep.
We're going to go next to the queue is Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to make a motion for a few programs, and I think that Deputy Superintendent Nui might have it queued up. If we can slide down to my motion. Thanks for pushing that over so I could read it. So I would like to make a motion that the board recommend a reduction to foreign exchange for $1,902,500. ProStart $375,300. Center for the School of the Future $200,000. Partnerships for Student Success $3,044,000. STEM endorsement $1,200,000 and IT Academy $500,000.
Okay, there's a motion. It's been stated. It's before us. It's been seconded. Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you. And I don't want people to think that I don't think that these are good programs or that they're not helping our students. We know every single program on this list that we're looking at is helping our schools. But I do feel like these are amounts and these are things that could be backfilled by local control and local decisions in their funding. And it's basically more of a cut that would be across the board, and it would also reduce some of the administrative costs that are associated with some of these programs. So I would ask that we support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. It was seconded, yeah. Member or Superintendent Hart.
Yeah, I'd just like to just remind the board that these items were all put on our staff list as well.
Member Davis.
I would just have a request, Chair, that the ones that are duplicate of the motion I just made be told to staff to save them the time of having to review those, since we're going to vote on those now. That was like, for example, the IT Academy and some other thing. I don't know what else she said that's on that same list. So whatever is duplicate in numbers 18 through 30 on the LFA publicized list should be taken off, so staff doesn't need to worry about assessing those.
So your request is it just the IT Academy? I'm not. Is there another one? So the request is that IT Academy be pulled as it's already being discussed or looked into. Is that correct? Or are you saying staff doesn't need to look into it? We're going to vote. Oh, I see. Take it off of Scott's list, not this list. I see. Okay. Yeah. If Scott, if you could let, I forget, Sue know that would be taken from her list there. Okay. Next we have Member Longacre.
Can I make a motion to divide?
Second.
There's a motion to divide. It's been seconded. Do you want to speak to that? No? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Member Longacre.
Sorry, can we just divide each individual one up into its own motion?
So there's a motion to divide each individual item here into its own motion. It's been seconded. I'm not seeing any discussion, so I'm going to ask, is there any opposition to dividing? Not hearing any. Let's go ahead and take these one at a time. The first one being that the board recommends a reduction to foreign exchange at $1,902,500. And I believe we'll have to restart these, so I will need a second. There's a second for that. I'm not seeing any lights, so let's go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Wood?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 11 in favor, 1 abstention, and 1 no vote. The abstention coming from Member Earl and the no vote coming from Member Carey. Our next motion is that the board recommend a reduction to ProStart at the amount of $375,300. Seeing no lights, let's go ahead and vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wood. That motion passes 10 in favor, 1 abstention, 2 no votes. The abstention coming from Member Earl, the no votes from Member Carey and Member Longacre. The next motion is that the board recommend a reduction to Partnerships for Student Success at the amount of, my apologies. The next motion is that the board recommend a reduction to Center for the School of the Future at the amount of $200,000. Seeing no lights, let's vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wood. We've got you as a yes. That motion passes 9 in favor, 1 abstention, 3 no votes. The abstention coming from Member Earl. The no votes are Member Brenton, Member Kelly, and Member Carey. And next motion is that the board recommend a reduction to Partnerships for Student Success at the amount of $3,044,000. Member Earl.
I'm wondering if staff could just answer, is this actually, and I'm just curious if this is going, I wrote a note that this is a lot of outside organizations take this money on and not necessarily schools. Can someone maybe confirm that for me? We're kind of the pass-through for some outside organizations with
you
this.
have an answer for that one?
Thank you, Chair Lee Voorhees, Deputy Superintendent. So this money goes out in grants. It does go out to some school districts, and then it also goes out to community-based organizations such as the United Way. But there are school districts who apply for this after-school program grant.
Member Carey? Or I'm sorry, Member Earl, did you have a follow-up?
So this is, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding. I have a basic understanding of this, but this is the after-school programs for kids. And is this just an extension of what we were doing in COVID? In other words, it took the COVID money and we're supplementing it with state money for that? Or is this?
Leah, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, this is pre-COVID. So there is a federal program, the 21st Century Community Learning Grants, CCLC. And this is a state program that contributes to providing after-school tutoring for students who have the need.
Member Carey?
Thank you, Chair. I would just, if permissible, direct a question to staff, which is I'd like to know the districts that receive funding for these students identified as needing this additional opportunity to learn. Thank you.
Do we have that offhand, staff? Or is that something we need to look into? It looks like Scott?
Estimated arrival time on that is 10 minutes, sir. We do have it, but we got to pull it up. So.
And then, Chair, rather than wait, I would ask that we not vote on this until we have that information. I won't make that a formal request. The Chair can proceed as he likes, but I think it would be helpful information to have if we can slow the train down long enough to do that.
Without a move to postpone, I'm bound, as this is before the body. So
Then I'll make a motion to postpone.
yeah, if there's a motion to postpone and it's been seconded. I see that do you want to speak to that, Member Carey? I think, okay. And just again, as I'll speak to it, we're just seeking information before we make a vote on a $3 million reduction. So, there's a motion to postpone. I see lights. We've got a hand up. We've got Leah. Go ahead in the back.
Thank you, Chair. So I have the legislative report that we submitted regarding this program. I'll just read down the list. Alpine School District, Mountain View High School feeder pattern, Canyon School District, Hillcrest High School feeder pattern, the Promise Partnership, Utah Cottonwood High School feeder program, Promise Partnership, Kearns High School feeder program, United Way of Northern Utah Ogden High School feeder program, United Way of Northern Utah Ben Lomond feeder pattern, yes, Weber School District Roy High School feeder program. Thank you, Chair.
With that, Member Carey, we're still on the motion to postpone. Let's get it back to you.
It belongs to the body, but with that information, there's no need for the motion.
Okay. Is there any objection to withdrawing that motion to postpone? Seeing none.
Chair, I would just like to say staff was able to pull that information before we were able to decide whether or not to postpone. Just want to put that out there. Yeah,
that
thank
was
you.
Great. Okay. So here we are at the original motion then, and that is that the board recommend a reduction to partnerships for student success at the amount of $3,044,000. I've got Member Davis and then Member Reel.
Is it possible to get a little bit of detail? When you say feeder program, can you give a little bit more detail on that?
Leah, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the high school, the junior highs or middle schools, whatever the district calls them,
Right.
that feed into the high school, and the elementaries
I
that
assume
feed
that,
into
but what
the
are they
junior highs.
doing? Just the after-school tutoring for all of those schools, elementary, junior high, and senior high?
So it's targeted. It's targeted tutoring, but they are looking at students. Most of the programs happen in elementary, but the students feed up into. I can forward the
Thank you.
report
That's helpful.
to all of you if
That's
that would
okay,
be
thank you.
helpful.
No, it's enough. Thank you.
Member Reel.
Thank you, Chair. I am in opposition of this motion. I also serve on the United Way of Salt Lake board, and the student success programs are outstanding. It's a really good example of public-private partnerships and the way that they have built a system. If you ever want to go take a tour with Mayor Wood in South Salt Lake, she can take you on their Promise. It's data-driven results that target students that need the most support, and they bring them up to successful levels by creating these tutoring services. There's everything from after school programs to transportation to other resources that students need to be successful, and it has incredible results. I can't say enough. It's something that I think we need to duplicate, and they're already starting to duplicate in other schools and other districts because it's been so successful, starting with the Promise program in South Salt Lake. It is a really good example of using data and having outcomes that I think everyone would be absolutely thrilled about. So I do not recommend cutting this money. I think it's a really good example of things that we're doing really well with public-private partnerships in our education system.
Member Carey.
I would also speak in opposition. Last weekend, or maybe 2 weekends ago, I had the opportunity of going to Youth Impact, which is a facility that receives these funds. And they're doing amazing things for the students in the Ogden community. And these students not only attend, but they want to be there. They want to learn. And I went because I wanted to see what was that secret sauce. What are they doing to just draw these children in? And I don't know if I have an answer to that, but it's clear that they do. There was another program, Growing Unified Development, where they're helping students who are struggling academically, and they're doing that through hands-on agriculture. And I didn't understand the wisdom of that at first. But again, seeing these kids who maybe in many cases haven't been to a farm, just being able to go in, immerse themselves in this new way of a different way, a different pathway of learning. It just highly effective, and we're always looking for effective programs. This is one of those. And so I would ask that that we not cut this funding for this Partnerships for Student Success programming. Thank you, Chair.
Seeing no additional lights, let's go ahead and tee this up for a vote here. And as a reminder, the motion is that the board recommend a reduction to Partnerships for Student Success at the amount of $3,044,000. Let's go ahead and vote.
No.
Vice Chair Wood, thank you. We got you as a no. That motion fails. 9 opposed, 4 in favor. Those in favor being Vice Chair Bollinger, Member Brinton, Member Hymas, and Member Kelly. We've got one more motion from this, or is there 2 more in this one? Okay, there's 2 more. The next motion is that the board recommend a reduction to STEM endorsement at the amount of $1,200,000. Member Kelly.
Yeah, if staff or even the maker of the motion could speak to this a little more detail, help us know what we're voting on here.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a program, and staff can add or fill in the blanks for anything that I miss, but this is a program that was originally, my understanding, was addressing a shortage in math and science teachers. And so what was happening is teachers could go and get a STEM endorsement or a math endorsement and then get that reimbursed from the state. And so originally, a lot of districts were helping facilitate that endorsement where they'd have to do an application through the districts to get reimbursed. Now, a lot of other groups, associations, and universities are doing this as well. So they're getting reimbursed for doing the classes instead of it just being a funnel through. The other thing is that we don't have the shortage that we've had in the past. And so it kind of speaks to what you and Member Bogus had been talking about earlier is, are we paying for, university college credit for? And I do support individuals getting endorsements. Some of these are value add endorsements, not to get the actual job, and others, they decide to add to it. But the changes that we've made in our teacher certification recently, where they can have other pathways, there's still a pathway where they can show competency instead of having to take the endorsement. So it doesn't stop our teachers from getting endorsements. It just helps us get closer to this cut that we're far from. So thank you.
Seeing no additional lights, let's go ahead and tee this up for a vote. Remember, or as a reminder, the motion before the board is that the board recommend a reduction to STEM endorsement at the amount of $1,200,000. Let's go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Wood.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes. 10 in favor, 1 abstention, 2 no votes. And the abstention coming from Member Earl, the no votes coming from Member Longacre and Member Carey. We've got one more in this group, and then board members, if it's appropriate, a break has been asked for. So let's take this one on, and we'll see where we're at. So the motion is that the board recommend a reduction to IT Academy at the amount of $500,000. Seeing no lights on this one, Member Davis, go ahead.
How many students will this impact? Do we know? How many students participate in this IT Academy?
So I know it's silent. We're kind of looking at staff. I don't know if you have it off.
I'm sure we could get it, but we'd need time to get that exact amount of students that have been using it. So
Member Davis.
My only fear is we're going to get in that space we got in last year with the student organizations, and we recommended and supported the decrease. And then the kids came up to the Capitol to interim PEA, and all the legislators said, "Oh, this is so important. We need this for you." And they were like, but so they were, I just don't want to get back into that same problem. But, based on some things that we've been talking about too, maybe there's some double opportunity. The only problem when we talk about the double opportunity is last year there was actually a $500,000 decrease, not when you look at the numbers, but when you compare the numbers to the growth of students participating in the program. And that's, I think, where some of that extra got lost in that conversation last year a bit.
I get that, and I'm not trying to argue. I'm not trying to argue with you, but we could have families coming for any of these at any time up to the Capitol, and the legislators could say, "Of course, we value that, right?" There's a reason that when the USDB is discussed in PEA, the chairs are full. Like we recognize that. It's not a bad thing. It's just we recognize that happens. Yes, this will affect kids. Yes, this will affect educators, right? If you would like, member Davis, we can take this. I know you said, hey, Sue is working on some things, but okay. Okay, I've got member Earl.
We'll get it though. We'll
Okay.
get the number, but
Well, I'll stall as long as I can, but you guys.
Okay.
Member Earl.
Just my understanding, this and ProStart, when a local district chooses to, or an LEA chooses to engage in the CTE program, and this is CTE, that those entities also help fund their programming. And I guess my question, I don't know, do I have a question? I'm making a statement. My point is that there's lots of programs out there. We're not funding all those programs. So this is one of those that, for whatever reason, I don't know why we picked this one to fund, where the other ones they have to actually fund themselves if they're choosing to use it. So anyway, I don't know, maybe I'm just making a statement, just kind of that question around why are we prioritizing certain CTE funding outside of the way they're normally funded versus, why is this one any different than any of the others that are out there? So.
Member Carey?
Yeah, it's been said that before you take down a fence, you should know why it was put up. And again, we're left with limited data, and we're saying, well, it'll save someone $500,000, and we're not looking at the purpose, as Board Member Earl just pointed out. Well, why is this one receiving funding and the others not? Well, to me, that's a salient, relevant question that we should understand before we vote to cut this type of funding. So again, I would just speak in opposition because we just don't have all of the relevant information we need. We are looking at these programs as dollar signs and not the students behind these programs. Thank you, Chair.
Member Booth?
I resonate with Board Member Carey's concern that dollar signs are taking precedence over students. However, Superintendent Hart indicated that these programs were ones that had been considered by staff, and they do have data and they do have information. They do have big picture sense of what are the critical areas. And I'm so grateful that in our state of lack of information, just because of the nature of the board, and we're in and then we're out and back to our regular professions and the things that we can rely on some of the time and the efforts of staff. And so I would take that statement that Superintendent Hart made seriously, that they have considered the data. They don't want to make any cuts any more than we want to make cuts. But if we have to make cuts, these were ones that they would feel could be made, and that gives me some measure of, I won't say comfort, because it's very uncomfortable, but I feel more empowered to move forward with staff and the superintendency's consideration and recommendation.
Thank you. Scott, you got your light on. Do you have an answer to the questions that were?
So we do have some details available on the IT Academy that we can put up. I mean, you know, in the interest of time, if you do want to do that, it doesn't have the student count, but it does do a pretty good description of what it's intended to do and what it's been doing and who it's going to. So I just don't have the student count.
Right. Board members, do you think that would be valuable? We're seeing some yeses. Go ahead, Scott. Share what you have.
Okay. Elise is going to pull it up for your review. I think it's 2 pages, isn't it? Or is it just that one? Yeah.
That bar graph have some numbers on it.
Go back up, Elise, please. Yeah.
Funding levels new.
Right.
Member Carey?
In light of what Board Member Booth shared, I just want to point out that 2 days ago we had a different list of priorities presented from leadership and from staff. And those suggestions included, 100% elimination for suicide prevention programs. Was it 100% elimination of BTS funding and 100% elimination of POPs funding? So I understand that, and I value the recommendations made by leadership and by staff, but at the end of the day, I think it's incumbent upon us as a board to have the information on each of these programs to make an informed decision and not do a blanket deferral to anyone, whether it's the legislature or the governor or any other entity. That is our charge as a board.
Scott, go ahead.
Well, so just as a reminder to the board members and to the public, respectfully, the links were put into all the sheets that describe the programs. We basically did that. So leading into this, all the links were provided to the COBE, which describes the programs much like it is here in IT Academy. So I just want to make sure that the public could also access those links. They can. We tested that. So the information was available to the board and the public as soon as we knew, we put the links in that go to these types of descriptions of the program. So.
Yeah, I think we recognize that. I mean, as Member Booth mentioned, this is just uncomfortable. Like we recognize that even the links, right? I mean, Scott, no blame on anybody, but the links, it's only so helpful, right? Even looking at this screen, it's like, okay, that's, not to again, there's no side taking here. We're all in a similar situation, but it is difficult to make a decision here. And I hope we don't get into this space where it's like, well, you're voting off of just numbers. You're voting out of frustration. You're voting for this or that. No. We all are accountable for our votes, right? And so we need to maintain accountability for our votes, not be frustrated with somebody else's. And for whatever reason or however they vote, that's on them, not on anybody else. And then leadership will take the majority of those votes to the PEA, and we'll do our work. So. Member Brenton.
I just asked for clarification on this IT Academy. As I'm reading it, it says it's closing and that the interim accountable budget process is the programs being eliminated. So it seems like we should take that into consideration, like the Leonardo. And I'm sure staff has gone through with programs that are sunsetting. Those are the things we want to target. And superintendents have also let me know that newer programs that haven't really been around for a long time would also be a good thing to take out that wouldn't hurt them as much.
Leah?
Thank you, Chair Leah Voorhees, Deputy Superintendent. So our CTE computer science specialist, Christina Yamada, just shared that 11,879 tests have been taken in this program. Some students do take more than one test, but almost 12,000 tests have been taken.
That's helpful. Thank you. So I don't see any lights. I think we're ready for a vote. There's Member Brenton. Go ahead.
That didn't really answer the question because it says on our sheet that it's a closure, that this program's ending. Like,
That's okay. And I don't think that was a response to your question.
Oh,
That was a
okay.
response to
So
an earlier
I just
question.
wanted-
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. So my question is, you mentioned that it is covering the tests that are happening. My understanding is that that's what the First Credential program is also supposed to support. So I guess that's my question to staff is, if we cut this program, could this be wrapped into the First Credential program as part of that, where they are getting certifications? Because obviously we don't want to hurt children getting their certifications for what they're working on in the classroom. So my question would be could the First Credential funding also cover the same assessments the kids are taking?
Thank you, Chair. To Vice Chair Bollinger's point, that is one of the reasons that staff considered this particular program on your list.
Member Carey.
It was Board Member Britton's question answered regarding the closure notation. The reason I ask, and maybe I can just append this to her request, on item 31, and this is a $10 million item, it also says software licenses for early literacy closure. And so again, I don't know whether by putting closure there, it means if this happens, it closes, or whether this is predetermined that this is slated for closure. Keep that in mind when you vote. So having that information would be highly valuable to the board. Again, if we can slow the train down long enough to get information, but that information would be highly informative.
Scott, I see your light. Before you answer, Member Brenton, where did you read that was closing? Just on the sheet. Okay.
On the LFA sheet?
On the LFA sheet in the description.
I can explain that.
Thank you, Scott. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that is a notation that was made. So over the interim period, the PEA held meetings and reviewed as part of what's called the accountable budget process. And so the recommendation was back then in those PEA meetings to close it so that they wouldn't need the money anymore. So back to Board Member Carey's question, yes, if the recommendation is followed through on to reduce that money, it effectively closes the program. So,
Member Carey.
Chair, if I may, just to follow up. So was it PEA who indicated they were inclined to close it? Okay.
Or LFA, because again, PEA has not
LFA
met
to
on this.
PEA, yes.
I want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah,
PEA has not taken any action on this. This is an LFA recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Deputy Superintendent.
With that,
Member Hummus,
Oh,
can I
yeah.
ask a question?
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, just confirming. So there is a possible way for these students to continue to get this through the First Credential program, and that some of these programs have already gone to a free system where kids can do it and it's not costing them. Is that what I'm getting from the information that's been presented?
Scott, I don't know. I didn't hear the term free in there. I did hear that there's places to help out.
There are.
But I don't think that First Credential was a complete replacement. Is that accurate?
That's as far as the full extent of my understanding, it's not a replacement, no.
Well, can I clarify on the information, the screen? Sorry, I thought I read on there that one of the reasons it was closing is that there were there were free sources. And maybe I read that incorrectly when it came up. It was just briefly on the slide.
I, yeah, could somebody read that out loud? I can't see what she's referring to.
Yeah, on the LFA report to the PEA, it says under achievements and challenges, Microsoft discontinued Imagine Academy and MTA certifications, transitioning content to free online platforms.
Yes. However, that doesn't mean that students cannot still seek certification in that, but I don't know if First Credential would allow them to do that. So it's what I think the point they're trying to make here is because Microsoft made that decision, that was the way back when was why IT Academy was stood up, was the requirements of Microsoft to get certifications to do that. But now that it's open, they're saying you don't need the IT Academy anymore. It doesn't mean they can't still pursue certifications or training in Microsoft applications, but if that's what the question is are there other avenues where they can get certification? My understanding is yes, but I am not sure if it's First Credential and if it comes at a cost.
Thank you. Leah?
Thank you, Chair. The industry certifications are not free. The tests for the industry certifications, and the process, but as Deputy Superintendent Jones explained, the Microsoft has content that is free online, but the industry certification is separate. Does that help?
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wood. Seeing no lights, the motion before us is hopefully coming on the screen. The motion before us is that the board recommend a reduction to IT Academy at the amount of $500,000. Let's go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Wood?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so that passes 10 in favor, 2 in opposition. Those opposed, Member Davis and Member Carey. Okay, up next in the queue, I still have Member Bollinger, but board members, a request for a break was made. Lunch is supposed to be delivered in 15 seconds, in 5 minutes. Let's just break for a minute, and we'll set an alarm for 30 minutes, and then I will be back in here and reevaluate, make sure that we're good to go. But it might be a little, depending on when lunch gets here, it might be a little extended. So thank you to the public. Be patient with us. We are still working on this. Member Carey, go ahead before we break.
Apologies. Before we break, can we just have an update on where we are in progress towards the goal so we have a better understanding? Thank you.
Scott or Deborah, can you tell us where we're at currently? And I hope we didn't go backwards.
124 million still remains towards the target, pending the follow-up, which we're almost ready to do. Well, we can do it when we come back from the break. The follow-up to Board Member Davis's questions about those particular items. Do they affect FTEs here at the state?
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we're on break. Thank you, board members and staff. Thank you, board members, for gathering back. We left. We had some motions. There's nothing currently on the table, but if you recall, Member Davis made a motion to, and then it was postponed. I believe we have the response or the answers to those questions. Scott, before you provide those answers, can we get her motion back up on this board so that we can put eyes on it? And then we'll put that motion back before the body so that we can discuss. Yeah, we need to follow up. We voted to postpone. I think we need to, if it's okay, Member Davis, I'm anxious for a follow up. I'm just curious. Well, we can still vote how we vote, but there's questions before. So the motion that was made was that the board recommended a reduction to the programs listed on the LFA recommendation document on lines 18 through 30, and then they're listed there. And the question, if I recall correctly, was it wasn't necessarily about students. Member Davis, it was about FTEs. The questions was about FTEs, and if it's okay with the body, as of course this is a motion that was adopted by the body, not adopted. The motion was seconded, so it belonged to the body, and then it was postponed. And now that we have the answers, we're curious about the answers. That's where we are currently. So can you help us out here? But before we do that, I guess we need a motion to untable. What does that look like? I can't remember the process for when we postpone. We didn't table it, and the postponement is fulfilled. So this is just coming back to us. We're gonna accept this as the motion on the table, and so that's where we're at now. It's been, I just stated it. It's already been seconded. It's back before us. Deborah, are you gonna? I see your light on. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So Deborah Jacobson, Assistant Superintendent of Operations, to follow up on the highlighted in yellow here on our sheet. Of these programs that are highlighted in yellow, policies and communication, it would impact 1 FTE. We would have to either not fill a vacancy or lose 1 FTE. Policy and communication includes not only our Deputy Superintendent, Elise Newey's budget, not her personally, but her budget, and our data and student privacy programs. So there's that. And the only other program that will affect an FTE is actually financial operations. We're fully aware of that. That's a vacant position that we have. It's $114,000, and we cannot hire someone with that amount. That's $114,000 for salary and benefits. So it makes it challenging. So it's best to just turn it back.
Member Davis, go ahead.
Okay. I just want some clarification. So it sounds like 1 total or 1 in the first one that you mentioned. And in policy and communication, it's only $100,000.
Correct.
And that says it's surplus. So
when you say so, but they're taking it from ongoing funding.
right, but
So it does force us to spend down our carry forward.
okay. I
But
think we have an
ongoing,
amendment on
it will affect 1 FTE.
that. If that were one time and not ongoing, then it would not pull an FTE out of that
Correct.
policy department, right?
Correct.
Okay, I think someone may have an amendment. So.
I've got a lot. Thank you. Thank you for getting that response back to us. We recognize that this is a lot of information coming, and we're asking for a lot of information. So thank you for that. I've got a light from Member Carey.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a motion I'd like to make if it's in order. Motion to amend.
Motion to amend is in order, yes.
And that motion to amend would be on items 20, the motion to amend would be that for items 20, 21, 27, and 30, that we would only take those surplus of non-lapsing balances as they currently stand, and it would not affect ongoing appropriation. And then, once that's digested, if I could speak to the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, keep an eye on the screen. Let's make sure we get it. So, yeah, let's make sure we get this correct. So I'm gonna read what these numbers align with. Is that okay? 20 for the board's awareness. 20 is policy and communication optimization. 21 is School Turnaround and Leadership Development Act optimization. 27 is Elementary Reading Assessment Software Tools optimization. 30 is K-12 computer science optimization. And from what I understand, and Board Member Carey will speak to this further, but I just want to make sure that we all understand what the motion, this is to reduce the amount of the surplus, not like 100% reduction, but I could be misunderstanding. I'm just trying to make sure things are clear.
That is correct.
Okay, so the motion then, it looks like we're still typing. It was these are just the titles, is that right? So let me read the motion then. For items 20, 21, 27, and 30, see the names below, and or that the board would only recommend the reduction of the surplus funds as they currently stand and not ongoing funds. Do we have a second? It's seconded. Back to you, Member Carey.
Chair, maybe for clarification, if there's no opposition, instead of saying ongoing funds, we use similar language that the LFA did, which was ongoing appropriations. Would that materially change the motion, or I'm trying to make it clearer?
Scott, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah. So for example, item 30, the LFA has that as the one-time money. So are you just echoing there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're just, okay.
Yes, sir.
So I will add too, yes, the LFA is using one-time money towards the target. However, that money was that carry forward on 30? So that's carry forward. So just to clarify, Board Member Carey is not proposing that we reduce the ongoing amount by that amount. We just turn back in that carry forward or that excess dollars, right?
Correct.
Which is what the LFA is saying. So, okay.
Yep. It is. And then if I could speak to it, Chair, once it's...
Right. But
let's ask the other question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
Just to clarify further, on the other items, so I use 30 first, but on the other items, 20, 21, and 27, are you wanting to keep, is Board Member Carey's motion to keep that money ongoing, or are you saying to, okay.
Yeah, the ongoing funds would be kept. The surplus...
The different, okay.
Yeah.
So you want the one time, okay,
Correct.
Gotcha. You want it changed to one time?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And then the other question, Scott, I'm sorry, before you speak to this, let's make sure we got this motion correct. Appropriations, does that fit better, or does that work more appropriately with what I think that was the other question. We said ongoing funding,
Right.
and as appropriations, it might be sixes. I don't know if it matters, but.
Well, so the translation of that, or is that if the board adopts that, certainly you would present that tomorrow, The concern that we're likely going to get, though, from the LFA is that doesn't solve the challenge of reducing ongoing, infinite time, right? It's just that you do it one time, and most case. So what do you do next year? And that only frees up that money to be used as one-time money. But what they're seeking is reductions in ongoing money so they can use that ongoing money for ongoing purposes in other areas and potentially other areas of the state. So, I hope that makes sense.
I
know
think we
getting
understand
into-
that part, yeah.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Member Carey, if the motion is correct, let me restate it one more time. It says, this is amendment for items 20, 21, 27, and 30, that the board would only recommend the reduction of the one-time surplus funds as they currently stand and not ongoing appropriations. And then a list of names right there. So back to you to speak to that, Member Carey.
Thank you. We don't know what the future is going to hold in terms of revenue for the state, money coming in. That was one of the motivations for the motion, but the other one was that when we are asking our partners in education to take reductions, take cuts, take reallocations, I think that is much more difficult to do and a bit unfair if we're not, as a state board, going to share in that process. And so it's my understanding that these funds, and I don't like the word surplus because I don't believe they are, but they are funds sitting in an account that haven't been spent, that could have been spent. And for a variety of reasons, they weren't. And so I think it is appropriate to say, let's take those funds and apply it to the target that we've been asked to reach. But I wouldn't agree, and that's why it's not part of this motion, to say, because we didn't hit that target this year, every ongoing appropriation should also be reduced. I don't think that's fair. So I think this reaches that balance of saying, yes, there's funds that we can apply. They could be used, they could be spent, but in light of the fact that we're asking everyone to share in this painful process, I think it's appropriate for us as a board to do that as well. And so that's why the motion is being made. Thank you.
Member Lear, to this motion?
Try it again. Thank you. I support that motion. I would like to know, I'm not sure how much money that amounts to, though. That's what I was trying to figure out from the motion. Is that something that's pretty readily available?
We're getting there. Yeah.
Member,
just a few minutes.
Member Carey?
I did add the numbers up, but I will wait for the official. And then I'll reveal my number, but let's wait for the official.
Yeah. As long as it, yeah, okay.
I thought it was.
Member Lear, are you waiting for that for a vote?
Not really. I want to know because I want to know if we're inching toward the target or if we're like making strides.
We're inching.
That's inching.
I mean, but it's better than stagnant. Yeah.
Oh, and I no criticism here. I just wanted to know what it amounts to in money.
Well, let's go ahead and as we
Chair,
go ahead.
If I may, sorry to interrupt you, sir. She brings up a good point, and I think this was the discussion or just the verification we were trying to get with Board Member Carey is by moving it to one time, you're actually not, it's not going to affect the target. I mean, it's going to increase the target amount because you're basically saying, well, do this for 1 year, right? Or do this for, just as he articulated so well. So that amount, if by doing that, putting it into one time, this is why I said earlier, well, we'd likely get some pushback or concern from the legislature saying, well, you didn't actually do what we wanted you to do here. You came up with a alternate or a different method, but it doesn't go to getting the ongoing target down. So that's what we go into.
I hear
we
you.
risk.
I do think in the spirit of collaboration with the legislature, we are expecting pushback. Right?
Okay.
That's part.
No,
I think this is part of
I
the
understand.
process. Is we're going to say things that they don't like, and they're going to say things that we don't like, and
Okay.
that's
Right.
healthy in a conversation.
Sure.
So-
So that changes it to what again? 125,800,000.
Okay, with the
Your
ongoing
new target that if this were to pass by the board. Oh, how much was applied to that? 1.2 million.
1.2 million.
That's moving from ongoing to one time.
But the question, I think part of the back and forth here is, yes, we have been asked to look at ongoing funds, and then we see, and Scott, I'm just saying this for everybody, including PEA and LFA, whoever's listening. We have been tasked with looking at reducing 5% from ongoing funds, and they've been tasked with a similar task. We're seeing on this spreadsheet that we're seeing a combination of ongoing and one-time funds. And so if there's some flexibility on their end, we're wondering, and that could be part of the conversation, well, if that is true, if your recommendations are included with one-time funds, then perhaps we can try to get creative as well, if nothing else, to help us gain additional time, which each board member has expressed interest in having to gain more understanding. So I recognize what you're saying, Scott, and your military background is probably saying this is our task and we need to do it, and I respect that completely. But I think that's what I'm getting from this body is
Sure.
we need to start looking at areas that we can make a difference, at least for this year, if not ongoing. So that's the motion then is before us. It is a motion to amend items 20, 21, 27, and 30, that the board would only recommend the reduction of the one-time surplus funds as they currently stand and not ongoing appropriations. Seeing no additional lights, let's go ahead and vote. And okay, I think that I think we have two absent, Member Green and Vice Chair Wood, and so 13 is our max here. It passes 10 in favor, 3 abstentions. The abstentions coming from Member Brenton, Member Earl, and Member Bogus. And then Scott and Deborah, I know you're going to have to start doing different light, right? One-time funding, ongoing, total for ongoing, total for one time, and then total combined. Thank you. Thank you. Who's next in the queue? Oh, we've got to go back to the original. Yes. Let's see if we can get that motion put together as amended. Okay, let's take a look at this. The motion then is that the board recommend a full reduction to the programs listed on the LFA recommendation document on lines 18 and 19. And these are subsidy program elimination and student support services correction. 22 through 26, which is Leonardo Museum closure, financial operations FTE vacancy, statewide charter school training programs revision, statewide online education program amendments, student course capacity, statewide online education program amendments, 28 through 29, IT Academy closure, K-12 computer science initiative, and for items 20, 21, 27, and 30, recommend only the reduction of the one-time surplus funds as they currently stand and not ongoing appropriations. Seeing no lights, let's take a vote. That passes 12 in favor, 1 abstention. That abstention coming from Member Bogus. Next. No, it's fine. Yeah, she didn't hear the discussion. She had to miss. She missed a lot. That's fair. Yeah, nobody's calling you out. I think we have next in the queue. Let me pause. We've got Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a motion, and it's a little bit of a long motion. So I will state my motion, and then if I get a second, I'd like to speak to it. So I would make a motion that the board recommend to PEA that if SB 107, which is Senator Stratton's bill, passes, that the Education Commission study the remaining programs and make reduction recommendations for the 2027 session, and that the board submit 2 reduction recommendation plans to PEA. Plan 1 with the current reduction recommendations and include the one-time funding reductions. And Plan 2 would be to keep the current reduction recommendations and recommend a 1-year reduction percentage to all remaining 78 state-funded programs. Does not include the basic programs based on the percentage needed to meet the target amount.
The motion was just stated. Do we have a second? We have a second. Back to you, Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you. I appreciate this board's work to try to get to this number. And we've spent hours and hours, and that doesn't even, I mean, in meetings we've spent hours. That doesn't even include all the hours that everybody individually has spent trying to look at where we can get the money. We're trying to meet the requirement that PEA has asked us to do. And we really do appreciate the opportunity to be part of the discussion. I think what's been spoken here several times is that it's hard to make cuts to programs or recommend reductions if we really don't know the impact that they're having on students and on the areas that we represent. Senator Stratton has a bill with a recommended commission that looks at any bill that comes through to look at the impact before it can be passed. And if that commission is put into place, I also think that's a great commission to get some time to do some deep dive into what's happening with these bills. So when we go to make recommendations to cut the programs, we have a better idea of what that looks like, and it gives them the time and the space to look into that. As far as the 2 plans are concerned, we know that, and we've heard Deputy Superintendent Scott Jones tell us that the assignment's not to do the one-time funding. If we have a shortage and we're trying to put a Band-Aid on and then look at really ongoing use of funds and make sure it's efficient, if we went with Plan B and that recommendation, although it doesn't necessarily meet what PEA is asking us to do with ongoing, and we recognize that, it would be a solution for this year until we get a chance to do a deeper dive. Plan 2 would do something similar if they're not going to allow us to recommend the one-time reductions of funds towards that, then it gives another option. And although none of us want to make cuts to any of our programs, if we did a same percentage across the board, whether that's a 5% or whatever that turns out to be to meet that number, then what we're hearing, many of us from our local education agencies, is that they could swallow that for a year. They'd much rather do that than have these big cuts to, some of these programs that are on here that would be detrimental to programs. For example, like we've talked about, to the charter school-based funding or the pupil transportation and the flexible allocation. That's really going to hurt FTEs and teacher salaries and those types of things. So it'd be, although it does only provide a Band-Aid for a year, I think it gives us a long-term plan to help us get where we need to be. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Bogus.
I really appreciate this. Thank you for this. I think it's a good possible solution as we go through this process. I don't think that the public or even our legislators understand that this, you call it a deep dive, but that deep dive, if we got in a room, could take us hundreds upon hundreds of hours to look at how students interface with these materials throughout the state. My question is, it's okay, I'll just wait until you're done. Sorry, my question is, so I'm going to make a statement and ask a question. I'm deeply concerned that should we pass this and suggest that tomorrow will come and we'll be back in here for another long meeting in a week. And I would rather, we just have so many issues that we need to take care of. I don't want to get stuck in this issue and have it affect other pieces of legislation because people are getting angry and spiteful on the Hill. And yes, I said that out loud, sorry. But my concern is, do you see that as a possible thing that could happen, that we go in there tomorrow and they say, you failed again, try again? I just, that is my concern. And so my question to you is, do you have that concern?
Thank you for the question. And anything's possible, but I really want to put faith in our legislators that they are giving us, they're extending a hand and offering us a chance to sit at the table. And this is a way of saying, yes, we want to come to the table. We need more time. I think it's, if we can send that unified message that we appreciate the opportunity to come to the table and that we want to extend, we just need more time to do that. What legislators do, I can't speak to what their intent is, and I wouldn't want to make guesses on that. And I would just hope that they would see this as us saying, thank you for allowing us to be part of the conversation, and we want to be thoughtful about what we're recommending, and we want to be the best representatives we can for our constituents and mostly for our students.
A quick follow-up, Member Bogus.
So then my question would be, and I appreciate that very much. So I appreciate this motion. I appreciate the answer to my question. Would this preclude other motions from coming forward today, or are we going to determine that percentage at the end of our meeting after we've had other motions? Because this appears to me that if we pass this, then we're just going to take that remaining percentage and recommend it across the board. And I'm not comfortable with that. Would it preclude additional motions? Or are we going to continue to do the work after this passes and then take the balance in that percentage and distribute?
Can I answer that? Whether it stops additional motions, I would say not necessarily. We could, if there was a motion to adjourn. I'm not inviting one. We saw that fail several times last week. Then we could go as the board desires. I do want to say that we do have a hard stop at 1:30.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to get back to the Capitol. Well, some of us have to get back to the Capitol. So there is a hard stop at 1:30. So whatever happens with this and future votes, 1:30. So if this were to change, though, if this were to pass and then votes came forward, I think that this would have to be somewhat of a living motion, right? Because it might be, well, now it's down to 77. a living motion, like it's right, because if somebody makes a motion, it passes by the board, now we're down to remaining 77 state motions or funded programs, right?
What if we
State-funded
just
programs.
said, I apologize.
Go ahead.
What if we
That's
just
my
said
thought on that.
remaining state funded programs?
That's fine with me. I think that's the intent.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. The reason why we had put that number in is because we want to make sure it doesn't include the basic programs, right? Like that's the special ed, those important programs. But I think because it says does not include the basic programs, it meets that criteria of what we're hoping to accomplish.
Member Earl?
Two things. Number one, this is our responsibility and our authority. I feel really, number one kind of to me is we have a responsibility, right? And I think there's not, previous years, there's been a little more leniency or slush funds or whatever to be used for various projects or programs. I think this what we've gone through the last 2 weeks tells me that as we go into April, May, the work of our finance committee, the work of our board itself, the different programs we have going on in our at the state board, we need to do the work to be asking, are these programs effective? Are they, should we be continuing? Is there a need for 5%, right? I don't see that the work of a commission. Well, if this, I don't know, I haven't gone through all this legislation. If this passes, I guess, that could be a question. I understood that to be a little different, not here's our finances, will you figure it out for us? And maybe that's not the intent, but I just see this as shifting that responsibility to a, broader entity when it's our responsibility. So I would actually, I have two motions. One, does the 78 include our USDB? Because what they did over the last year is probably what all of our other programs need to look at. And to cut that by 6% more, we already trimmed that to a point where I think we're jeopardizing whether we're going to be able to provide adequate education for those students. And we really have what I would call streamlined and really looked at the finances there. And I would not include those in number 2. So I would make an amendment that USDB would not be included as part of that plan. That would be my amendment.
So we have an amendment, and that is for the second part, what was that, 2B? Because I think 2A is the the one time. 2B is the remaining
or not to be
programs. I know.
I know. That's all
I knew
right.
that joke
That's
was
all right.
coming.
That's all right.
Yeah. This is why chairing is hard.
I know, and you do a good job. This is why board member. It's hard being a board member too.
Yeah, we need to skip. If ever we have a 2, get rid of 2B. We'll go straight to 2C, 2A, and then 2C. So the motion is for within 2B that the remaining programs not include USDB. Is that correct?
Yep.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Back to you.
I'll divide it.
Member Earl.
That's right. And then I do have a motion after we vote on this. So I do want to divide, but I got to do this motion first.
This motion is before us. I've got Member Carey and Scott. Are you offering clarity here? Okay.
But, Chair, if Vice Chair Bollinger, we're just a little bit concerned about the caveat or the condition of the passage of that bill, because the timing might not work out. Where if you were to propose this and then the bill didn't pass until, say, the last week, that's too late. But maybe we're misunderstanding. Maybe we're misunderstanding the timing of it, because if you make it contingent upon something happening that might not happen in time, then that we just want to make you aware of that, or just to see if you consider that. So
yeah, I appreciate that, and maybe the wording needs to be different. The intention is to offer the Plan A and Plan B, or the 2 plans for the fiscal year we're talking about. Then if that bill passes, that's for the following year. So when we're doing this process a year from now, then we have recommendations from individuals that have been able to do a deep dive. So if the fiscal year, if it needs, so it would be for the 2027 session.
So you're recommending, if I may, Chair, just to clarify, she's recommending the reductions or but yeah, okay.
So they wouldn't
then
be
it would
contingent
I
on
see.
that bill. They,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, I think that makes sense.
Does that, hopefully that makes sense? Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
we're just really just probably too wrapped around the axle on the timing, right, of it. But now that helps to say, well, it would be for the next year so that we could work on it. But I don't know if they would take those recommendations with that caveat in there. So because they've got to take action before soon, like in the next 2 weeks.
I think that's where part 2 comes in.
Okay, I see. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I've got member Carey and then member Earl. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Just a point of information, Chair. So I'm looking at the list of items that this body previously approved to be cut. And software license for early literacy, the Utah Fits All by 5%, Upstart administrative funds. Some of those we recommended 100%. So under this proposal, the funds, those items that we already slated for reduction, would there be an additional, is it 6%? I can't see the.
There's no percent on the board yet. It would be from what I understand, it'd be an overall, each program would be cut by an equal percent.
We don't know what that percentage is.
We don't know yet because there's some that were, to your point, there's some that are already cut at 100%. Those would not be jumped back in, but the remaining would be split evenly.
So so for instance, like the Utah Fits All was already voted on by this board for a 5% reduction. Would that also be subject to an additional reduction should this motion pass?
No. And that's protected by to all remaining, if that makes sense.
It does. I just want to clarify, and that's the understanding. Thank you.
Thank you,
Chair.
Now to your motion, and let me restate it. And the motion, just scroll up just a little bit to our amendment here from member Earl. The motion to amend is for 2B, that the remaining programs not include USDB. Member Earl, did you want to speak on that a little bit more?
No, I just thought that was our motion on the table, and then we got off on other things. And if we were getting off on other things, I was going to speak to those. But if we're going to do this, well, okay.
No, we're not. We blame member Carey. That's fine, but we're not.
I was going to blame Deputy Jones, but if you want me to shift it the other way.
No, we blame member Carey.
Board member Carey.
So the motion before us is for 2B to include that in 2B that the remaining programs not include USDB. Let's go ahead and take a vote. That passes 12 in favor, 1 in opposition, that opposed coming from member Carey. This brings us to the underlying motion. This is where, member Earl, did you have a?
I would like to divide.
Okay. So there's a motion to divide. Do we have a second? We have a second. Let's get your division clear. That usually seems
1
to
and
come
2.
up. Just simply 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Okay.
Yep.
There's a motion to divide 1 and 2. Is there any opposition to this motion? Seeing none, let's tackle this one at a time. Let's start with number 1. So the motion before us is that the board recommend to PEA that if SB 107, Education Legislation Advisory Commission amendments, passes, that the Education Commission study the remaining programs and make reduction recommendations for the 2027 session. And that was for the next part. Okay. Just end at session. Okay. Member Earl.
Yeah, I would speak against this. I do think we have an obligation as a board to make sure we're evaluating and looking at our programs and make appropriate recommendations. I've noticed, and you've noticed too, depending on who's looking at the program, they look at it from a different perspective, right? And one of those things, and I'll just give an example, like number 34, you know, from a financial perspective, if we were to shift USDB employees to to the state system instead of educator system that we have currently, it would save us money. But I'm not sure that that's what I would want to do with these professionals. They're educators like everyone else, and that we want to keep that where it's at. So what I'm saying is we have an obligation from where we're standing and the stakeholders that we engage with, our local LEAs, to make ask those questions and make those recommendations. LFA is going to make recommendations, then the legislature is going to make those recommendations. I think it's a healthy perspective taking. And so I just think that we need to do our part, but I don't think this is pushing it to a commission or suggesting that. And I think, yeah, that's what I think.
I've got Member Lear and then Vice Chair Bollinger.
I like the collaborative nature of this. However, this early in the session, and I actually was looking with interest at what this Senator Stratton's bill, I think it's SB 107, what that will look like. But this early in the session, and given the way that these bills can change, and the makeup of that commission could change considerably, and I already feel like it's heavily weighted in favor of legislators, I'm not comfortable speculatively putting, similar to what Member Earl said, putting that much authority in their hands. So I reluctantly, I'd like to be able to have a more collaborative process, but reluctantly, until I see exactly what that bill looks like, what the makeup of the committee looks like, what their real power or authority might be, I can't agree with this.
Vice Chair Bollinger.
Yeah, thank you. And I do appreciate that perspective. And the way I see it is more where we can hopefully get these recommendations in advance. And I don't think it precludes us from our responsibility or our duty to talk to our own constituents and the LEAs that we represent. But I do hope that if the purpose of this commission is to look at all the bills that are tied to funding and make sure that we're not adding unfunded mandates, or there's input and insight from all constituents and all individuals in a commission, I think it would put us in a better place and better prepared to make decisions in the future.
Member Davis.
I'm not really prepared with amendment language, but I do think we need to amend number 1 instead of sort of putting it contingently, if this passes, then this. I think we just need to say that we are going to do a deep dive over the next year. And we may ask for the commission, for stakeholder input, such as the Education Commission, such as local LEAs, such as charter state board and associations and such. If there's a way that we can
Substitute that.
What I just said.
Yeah, substitute it in. There's a substitute language for it.
So I guess it would be a substitute motion, then we're saying.
Okay.
I got to figure out the language, but it would be, that beginning would be to say that during the coming year, USBE will work on a deep dive into each of these programs and return on investment and gather stakeholder input. And I don't know if we need to include the commission or if you just want to share that when you're presenting this to PEA. If stakeholder input is enough, just leave it this way, that the board work collaboratively to do a deep dive and ROI study of programs, including gathering stakeholder input over the next year. And during that year recommends either 1 or 2 to the board. To the PEA.
Is that your motion? You see that?
Yes, sir.
So the substitute motion is that the board work collaboratively to do a deep dive and ROI study of programs, including gathering stakeholder input over the next year, and during that year recommends either 1 or 2 to PEA.
I'm not quite finished.
Keep it going.
Okay.
I asked and you said yes.
Who's driving right now? Elise, I'm going to send you this language. And I'll read it while I'm sending it to her, but. Okay, and so I just sent that to her to put up, but I'll read it so the board can hear it. But that we also include this language. Due to the imbalances caused by federal tax deductions, the Utah State School Board respectively requests that no reallocations occur to fund new legislative programs or initiatives during the 2026 legislative session.
Member Davis, is that your motion?
Yes, I didn't actually write those words, but the person who did is a board member who's not here right now. So
Is that your co-motion?
I guess
I just want to make sure it's on the
I just don't want to
screen.
take credit for someone else's work.
Sure.
But she wrote good words, I thought.
So the motion before the board, this is a substitute motion, and it is that the board work collaboratively to do a deep dive and ROI study of programs, including gathering stakeholder input over the next year, and during that year recommends either 1 or 2 to PEA, and to communicate to PEA that due to the imbalances caused by federal tax deductions, the Utah State School Board respectfully requests that no reallocations occur to fund new legislative programs or initiatives during the 2026 legislative session. Do we have a second?
I have a question before you second it about my own motion.
Go ahead.
Do we understand that as a board to mean that if they pull 6%, they can't put it back into the WPU? Like we're saying these are definitely cuts and not open for reallocations.
Sorry, say that. Scott, do you?
Can we change the wording to respectfully request that no new legislative programs or initiatives start during the 2026 legislative session? Education programs. Requiring funding. Well,
We have some lights before we have a second. We have some clarifying questions here. Remember, Carrie, is your question a clarifying question, or are you speaking about regarding the motion? Point of information, go ahead.
The member Bollinger's bill motion referenced remaining programs, and that would avoid whacking the same programs again. It appears that the new language puts everything back on the table, which opens up the possibility that programs that were previously addressed and voted on to be cut could be cut again. I just want to know if that's the intent of the maker of the motion, to make to double dip into those programs that have already lost funding, possibly because of the actions of this board, that they would be up for further reduction. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Member Davis, I don't know if you have a response. We're just trying to get clarity on your motion.
for that one, I think down below it said remaining programs, but if we've taken that out, we need to put the remaining part in there so it's clear that the ones we've already voted on stay, and then this would be remaining. Also, I think the language on this needs to be in the very last sentence. It should say, instead of no new legislative programs or initiatives, it should say no new legislative programs or initiatives requiring funding be created in the 2020 educate. education, legislative education programs or initiatives.
Did that answer your question, Member Carey?
I'm not sure because I still don't see the remaining either in this part, and I don't know if it is in the two proposals. I don't believe it was, but we can either add it here or below. But I don't think it's in the language of Plan 1 or 2, unless it's highlighted in blue.
Yeah, it is in Plan 2. This is a substitute motion for just the first one, right? We're on the first motion, and so remember Vice Chair Bollinger's motion was to keep an eye on Senator Stratton's bill. If it passes, the Education Committee study the remaining programs. And then the second part talks about those funding priorities that we've already, or not priorities, but reductions that we've already discussed. Do you have, Member Bogus, are you speaking to the motion, or do you have a question about the motion? A clarifying question. We're just trying to get the motion. I'm still waiting to get a motion before us. Okay. And then Vice Chair Bollinger.
We're going to get frustrated with me. Yeah, not about
Which one?
If I can ask a clarifying question.
Wait, yeah, and I have one more little piece. This is turned into a monster. One more little piece on the end here. The last little piece on the end would be without being requested or endorsed by the Utah State Board of Education. And then did we get the remaining word in there from Member Carey?
It was addressed.
It below. Okay.
Go ahead, get a clarifying question, Member Bogus.
Do appreciate that. I think that our legislators would take issue with the term deep dive. And I have a question as to what that actually means, because I know what it means to me, but what is it when we go to explain to legislators? What is a deep dive? I like comprehensive study. I think that would be received better. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. I know we are doing a lot of wordsmithing here. Let me just put this before the board. We have to adjourn in about 18 minutes. This is not focused on our task at hand. The second one at least gives leadership something to take back to the PEA. This just tells this motion here and the first one, quite frankly, nothing against this motion or the one before that. It just tells me that we're going to say we need more time. So I don't want to spend the remainder of our time on this motion, or at least putting this motion together. But if we are close, we can move forward. So I've got lights. I'm trying to make sure that this motion is as Member Davis wants it. I've got lights from Member Reel. Is this to clarify the motion? We don't even have a second yet. Don't turn your. Okay. And then is this a clarifying question, Member Brenton?
Yeah, I'm concerned about some of the language in here when it's saying communicate to PEA that due to the imbalances caused by federal tax deductions. So I feel like this is going to be read as a slam on the Trump administration and the big beautiful bill and what Congress has passed to try to send education matters back to the state. Is that what we want to communicate?
I don't
Can
know.
I respond?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
What she was saying is just quoting what we've already heard from the legislature. They've said this is not due to a revenue shortage. It's due from a structural change and the monies that will be coming in due to structural changes. But I mean, I'm fine if you want to amend it, but just a technicality. I think that comprehensive study was going to cover the deep dive and ROI. I think you can take out and ROI and just put in the comprehensive study.
Okay. I want to make sure that this motion is put together. It's become like a 2-pager here because I think is there more beyond this?
That's it.
Okay. We have clarifiers. Is that what's going on? Member Carey?
Yeah, and I apologize to the board, but so I'm not sure. I tend to agree with what Board Member Brinton is saying, that it appears by leaving in the language, because I've talked to legislators too who say that it is a combination of factors that brought us to this point. And to say or imply that it's only the federal tax, not even imply,
I'm
it
fine to
says
take it out if people want it out.
That would be
Not substantive in
my
opinion.
preference. So if that works, I would prefer that.
I'm fine. I'm fine to take that out. And to communicate to PEA that the Utah State School Board respectfully, yeah, I think it works fine without it. Now it's not a full 2 pages anymore.
I think I'm ready to state the motion here. Is that right, Member Davis?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The motion before the board is that the board work collaboratively to do a comprehensive study of programs, including gathering stakeholder input over the next year, and during that year recommends either one or two to PEA, and to communicate to PEA that the Utah School Board respectfully requests that no new legislative education programs or initiatives requiring funding be created in the 2026 legislative session without being requested or endorsed by the Utah State Board of Education. Do we have a second? We have a second. You want to speak to that, Member Davis?
I just would hope that when this is presented to PEA, that those presenting would also say, we have started doing the whole last couple of years, we've been picking one at a time and looking at the ROI. So we're already trying to look at efficiencies, but we're going to try to dig even more and study that even more. So they don't feel like, well, why are you starting this now? We're not just starting now. We have been looking at ROI and a lot of things and programs that we're doing. But we'll keep digging.
Member Bogus?
Oh, I have nothing to say about this motion, sir.
That's okay. The motion has been stated. It's before us on the screen. Let's go ahead and tee that up for a vote. Vice Chair Wood?
Yes.
That motion passes 9 in favor, 4 in opposition. Those opposed? She waited too long. All right, Member Earl. That motion passes. Now, the number threw me off. Vice Chair Wood's back, and so we're back to 14. It passes 9 in favor, 5 opposed. Those opposed being Member Earl, Member Carey, Member Kelly, Member Hymas, and Member Brinton. That is our substitute motion. That is what goes through. Let's move on to the second part of the motion that Vice Chair Bollinger brought before us, and that is to substitute, or that the board substitute 2 reduction recommendation plans, submit. Oh yeah, that's not even close. Submit to, no, I knew it didn't sound right as I was reading it, but for some reason substitute was in my brain. So that the board submit 2 reduction recommendation plans to PEA. Plan 1 is that the current budget reduction recommendations and include the one-time funding reductions. And Plan 2, keep the current reduction recommendations and recommend a 1-year reduction percentage to all remaining 73 now, and that will be adjusted as things happen. State-funded programs. This does not include USDB or the basic programs, based on the percentage needed to meet the target amount. Not seeing any lights, let's vote. Vice Chair Wood.
Abstain.
Abstain. Got you. And member Lear stepped out. Okay. This passes 8 in favor, 2 abstentions, 3 no votes, 2 absent. The abstentions are Vice Chair Wood and Member Earl. The no votes are Member Longacre, Member Carey, and Member Bogus. Okay. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I feel good that I can go get beat up by the PEA. This is exciting. Okay. Member Bogus.
Yeah, it's okay. I did send it to staff. I would just move that we direct staff to work with the legislator to produce code that would allow a tax exemption for families who do not use public education up and into the amount of the WPU per child, but not more than the family's income tax obligation.
Now you just read that at warp speed. Oh, there it is. Okay, I was going to say whoever's driving, good luck, right? But that's been submitted. So is this exactly what you just read?
No, I actually took the UFA stuff off.
Let's get it
Yep.
correct then.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion is to direct staff to work with a legislator to produce code that would allow a tax exemption for families who do not use public education up to the amount of the WPU per child, but not more than the family's income tax obligation. Do we have a second?
Second.
There's a second. Back to you, Member Bogus.
Yeah, I just think this is, we've asked for a reduction in the UFA, and the UFA will still end up with more money next year than it did the previous year. But I think this allows the option for families who don't choose to use the UFA, and also creates that balance for students who are still on the waiting list. If families are not using public education and they're not whatever with the UFA wait list, that this allows that, and it's not a blanket exemption. It's just up and into the amount of the WPU and would never exceed a family's income tax obligation. I think it's a good plan, and it creates a little give and take with our asking for UFA to be reduced. So
Yeah, I know. So this is a little bit out of order. I'm going to let this one. I hate using that term. Like I don't want to let anything, but there was another motion made earlier that wasn't part of this agenda, and this isn't part of this agenda. This isn't right. Remember, Kelly made a motion that wasn't part of the 5% reduction. You're making a motion that's not part of the 5% reduction.
but technically it is.
Member Bollinger made a motion that wasn't part of the 5% reduction, right? You're number one, right? So we're kind of getting off base here, but let's tackle this. But if there's any motions after this, please keep them relevant to what I can go to the take to the PEA tomorrow regarding the 5%. Is that fair?
That's
so
fair.
Let's tackle this motion. This is what's before us. I believe, was it seconded? Member Kelly seconded it. You spoke to it, Member
Yes.
Bogus. Let me restate, and then we can take a vote. The motion is to direct staff to work with the legislators to produce code that would allow a tax exemption for families who do not use public education up to the amount of the WPU per child, but not more than the family's income tax obligation. Member Davis.
I would add as a long-term alternative to be considered to UFA.
So there's a motion to amend. Let's get that on the screen. Is that, am I understanding that correct? We're moving to amend. So will you turn your light back on, Member Davis, and help the driver get that amendment?
As a long-term alternative to UFA.
So there's a motion to amend to add at the end of the current motion as a long-term alternative to UFA. Do we have a second? Sorry, sorry, let me get your mic back on so you can go
It
ahead.
was as a long-term alternative to be that's fine. To be no. As a long-term alternative to be considered. I want them to consider it. We're not considering this a done deal. They can consider this. They may need it.
Again, let's make sure our motion isn't complete here. Let's make sure we get it.
So that we're considering it not just we want it considered this year, not as this elusive.
Yes.
We want to have
Yes.
it now and to be considered long.
Yes.
Yeah. So can we just add presently and the beginning of your motion?
Well, it wouldn't start till next year anyway, but because it's too late. But yeah, as I'm not sure what you said, but that's fine. Presently and as a long-term alternative, to be a long-term alternative to UFA to be considered by PEA.
The motion to amend is to add at the end of the motion presently and as a long-term alternative to UFA to be considered by PEA. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second. Back to you, Member Davis.
I just think adding the to be considered, it's just a consideration that may need to be needed in a year anyway. And I think there could be some ongoing savings when you look at that overall in the long term. I don't think it's a hard stop. This has to be, but it's definitely an option to be considered.
Member Carey?
Information to staff, and that would be, I imagine there's no fiscal note or fiscal analysis done on this proposal in terms of what the cost would be, or how many families would be able to participate. If staff, and I don't expect staff to know the answer, but I would just like to see if staff does have that answer.
We do not have that
Okay.
answer. It would take time to more than 10 minutes or more than an hour to come up with that. But we will do it. We would do it if.
Last time you said that, you had it in like 30 seconds.
Well, sir, I'm an overachiever.
What's
so,
all the other
you know,
Scots doing?
Right. So.
Okay.
And then, Chair,
Yeah, we have to-
Please.
if appropriate, just speak against the motion.
Well, just if I may, we'd also, it wouldn't just involve us. We'd have to involve the tax commission and stuff. So that would take time. So.
I'd speak against the motion because not being a tax expert, but if we're just going to allow a tax exemption for up to a family's income tax obligation, those families with limited incomes who arguably need these funds the most, the poorest, the most disadvantaged, under this proposal, they would get nothing if they have nothing to offset that income with, as I understand it. And again, it is wrong to punish those who need it most. And I understand there's individuals that may not want to see the funding of school choice, of school opportunity, but those who need it the most should not be on the receiving end of changes that this board makes. Again, without going through the committee process, without going through the full vetting process, and I understand that the chair expressed those concerns as well, but it's here before us, and I'm going to vote against this again just because we haven't had the opportunity to do a deep dive, if I may, right, or comprehensive analysis into this issue, and it's just brought before us, and without that opportunity, I just feel very uncomfortable supporting this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I have a couple lights. I just want to, I believe Member Carey spoke to kind of the overall motion here and expressed her thoughts here. We are on an amendment here, and that is to add at the end of the motion, presently and as long-term alternative to UFA to be considered by PEA. Without responding to, I know it's going to be a challenge, right? Without responding to Member Carey, who's speaking to the overall motion. Is there any comment to the motion, the amendment? So I've got Member Bogus to the amendment or to the overall motion? Okay, Member Davis, to the amendment. Go ahead.
I just need a red light. No, I do want to say when I submitted my original proposal, it was to do half under this proposal and then half for low-income families under the current UFA program. So I just want to acknowledge, I heard what you said, but I want it on the public record. I understand that comment. But if states usually have an either or, and so if this doesn't pass, I can't vote for the other one, but I understand the concern and certainly had the same thought myself earlier.
Sure. I recognize that it is difficult to separate speaking to one and without the other. So, okay, let's vote on this and then we can move forward. So the motion is to amend, and that is to add to the end of the motion presently and let me start over. To add to the end of the motion presently and as long-term and as a long-term alternative to UFA to be considered by PEA. Let's go ahead and vote. Voting is open. Vice Chair Wood?
Yes.
Yeah, we are voting on the amendment, but I think the top is a little bit different, right? Yeah. Okay. So this is on the amendment. And we have you as a yes. Thank you, Vice Chair Wood. That fails. 8 opposed, 5 in favor. Those in favor are Member Davis, Member Booth, Member Bollinger, Member Wood, and Member Reel. This brings us back to the underlying motion. Let me see if there we go. Okay, and that is to direct staff to work with the legislator to produce code that would allow a tax exemption for families who do not use public education up to the amount of the WPU per child, but not more than the family's income tax obligation. Member Bogus?
Again, I just think this, since we've asked for a reduction in UFA, I think this adds another option for families who are not using public ed. And I think it's a great solution to just a series of things that the taxpayer has talked about. And I think it just offers one more option for families who do not use public education. But it's not a redistribution of wealth. It's the money that they would have owed. So anyhow, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope that you would support the motion.
Thank you. Member Kelly, we are
I know that.
Yeah.
I'll be quick. And maybe I'm not quick because I'm going to ask Board Member Carey through the chair, if you don't mind. One of the concerns you brought up with this, and I relate to, is the lower income families, but the UFA, one of their criteria for their grant program starts with income, right? And so there's a reduction in the UFA, but would this more likely impact families who would not be applying for UFA, or at least not being approved for that grant?
Member Carey?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I think we don't know because we don't have the data, but I would suspect that it would impact those currently receiving UFA funds as well as those who may be applying. Additionally, when we say who do not use public education, does that mean if they take a course at a school, all of a sudden they fall out of this? Or if they participate in an after-school sports program, are they now outside of this? Again, I'm not saying that we should wholesale say yes or no, but what I am saying is this needs to be discussed and not just thrown before the board at the very end of a long day and without the commensurate data. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no additional lights, let's go ahead and tee this up for a vote. The motion before the board is to...
Chair Hymas,
Yes.
Can I ask one question, please?
Yes.
Question on this. Would this, though, impact those families who may be homeschooling and choose not to take Utah Fits All? So it would also open this up to another avenue of families. Would that be an accurate statement?
We're hearing from the maker of the motion, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Member Bogus.
So the data was run. I don't know if Sam or Dale or whoever I met with, we had a meeting probably, not joking, well over 18 months ago. And so there was preliminary data run then. I don't know that I could find it before this meeting is over, but there were some numbers run that this would not have, it would have great impact to families, not a lot of impact to education funding, if that makes sense.
Does that help, Vice Chair Wood?
Yes, thank you.
Scott.
So just to be clear, with this motion being made, the ones highlighted in yellow would not. You had made that motion before to Board Member Davis had. Those would fall off, so the target amount would increase again. So
Okay. So the motion then is, and thank you for that. The motion is to direct staff to work with the legislator to produce code that would allow a tax exemption for families who do not use public education up to the amount of the WPU per child, but not more than the family's income tax obligation. Let's go ahead and vote. Vice Chair Wood?
No.
That motion fails. 8 against, 4 in favor, 1 abstention. The abstention from Member Davis. Yes votes are Member Reel, Member Booth, Member Bogus, and Member Bollinger. Vice Chair Bollinger.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.